Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Oh, good.
Hey-o!
Oh!
Do not adjust your sets. G. Bush is out today.
Honey, I
mean,
Shrank
you
G.
would-
Bush.
Yeah, that's
I made
right.
him white.
McNuggets is in G. Bush's place. G. Bush woke up with a stiff neck.
Stiff
He does
neck,
that.
stiff arms, said he couldn't move.
He had like the crap beat out of him by Western Michigan linebackers for so long and stuff that eventually that wears you down.
By the
It's
way,
taking its toll now.
Yeah.
by the way, could Mike and G. Bush look any different?
No.
Like, could
No.
that be? Is there a more stark difference?
You remember the movie, was it Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yes.
and Danny DeVito?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should make our own spoof film with you and G. Bush.
That's right.
Called Cleveland Twins.
Yeah.
And you guys just go around the city and you just
See, the joke was that they were
hijinks.
not similar at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
You
You've
get
never
it.
seen the movie?
Well, I know Danny DeVito and I know Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, they're not twins.
They don't look
Yeah,
alike.
yeah.
Picture them, not at all.
Yeah.
They're supposedly making a sequel all these years later.
I hope so. I love the chemistry between those
Oh, they're
guys in
awesome.
that movie. It was great.
By the way, guys,
Uh-oh.
Are you getting off Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh boy, here we go.
got something to
Oh,
show
it's the
you.
Baker
Oh,
Mayfield
no.
jersey.
Here it is!
Let's go!
Baker Mayfield! It won't fit me, so that's why I didn't put it on.
That
You know,
is-
you know it's a knockoff. That is not the Carolina Panthers blue.
That's true.
That is not Carolina
true.
Panthers. That is turquoise.
You got the right-
Hey,
That's straight
I
up
didn't say
China
I was going to
NFL
buy a real
merchandise.
one.
You got that from the same
This
place.
was the
I got
cheapest
my
one I could
off the
get.
leash shirt. Remember my off the leash shirt? Same knockoff.
That was slightly off-center.
Yes.
Yes. By the way, still got the
Mayfield
tag
misspelled.
on.
Is it
As you can
misspelled?
see. What?
Is Mayfield misspelled?
No, it's spelled
Look at that.
correctly.
Okay.
It's crazy how, the detail that they go to. They even knock off the official NFL tag.
Yes.
By the
I
way,
mean, it looks
Yep.
like it's other than the color being
Yeah.
off.
My buddy's friend used to make knockoff stuff in Youngstown. My buddy's dad. He made the opposite of the Nike swoosh. He called or the swish. Swoosh. He called it
yeah,
the swish.
oh, nice.
He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
mine's the swish. It goes the other way.
that's like the McDaniels from Coming to
Same
America.
thing. Let me see this.
So I'm gonna give this away on Twitter to a fan.
This is a rare collector's item now. This is like
It really
This
is,
is like
yeah.
a Dwayne Wade Cavs jersey.
Throwback.
I hurt
You
my
know?
shoulder.
Well, I think that would fit you.
It won't. I tried.
Come on.
I mean, I put it on this morning, and it was like a lot of my clothes are tight.
Yeah.
But that was like, it was sprayed on me.
I mean, wouldn't that
Seems like
make
I
the
hurt my
gag even better, though?
I hurt my shoulder putting it on.
Seems like a
I'm not putting it on again.
Seems like a two-man North Face.
He hurt his shoulder putting it on.
Hurt my shoulder putting it on.
If Mike
it looks
Polk-
good on you,
If
Mike.
you started
It does.
eating
Hey, you
Built
can
Bars
keep
every
it.
day, by the way,
Yeah?
Mike Polk would fill that
I can
out.
fill this out with
You
Built
would fill
Bars?
that with
Do you
Built
want
Bars.
to keep it, or
15%
should I
off.
give it away to one of the fans?
No, I don't want to keep this. Give it to a fan, please.
gonna give it to
they
a fan.
deserve it.
A fan deserves that.
There are fans here that will wear
Oh,
that.
I will
absolutely.
give it. I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to
man.
come up with a contest to give it away.
It's still got that wash
Mike wanted to
quarterback
smell
smell.
it.
It's got that
was a little
China
odd.
cigarette smoke
So,
industry
true
smell.
to my word, I did buy it. I can't wear it because it don't fit me.
So what are you gonna do? Just hold it up over your pin
I
it to your.
just hold it here. I
right.
don't know. I don't know in the original bet that I said I was going to wear it. I just said I was going to buy it.
I thought
sure
you said
we
you're going to wear
Yeah,
it.
I
pretty
did.
sure we pegged him
Can we
into
go back and
wearing
look
it.
at
I think
Keep pounding, guys.
we need
keep
somebody.
pounding.
Oh, there's the garbage can suggestion. Thank you. Good call. Good. We'll see. That's
So
good.
it'll just hang out with me. I'll just put it on the table.
All right, very good. Busy show today. It's it's Girls' Day. It's Ladies' Day.
Ladies' night.
Looks
on
like
the
it.
program.
well,
Mary
it's
Kay,
ladies'
Oh, good.
Aditi, and Serena Winters, who's the Cavs reporter.
Nice.
All three will join us to talk about NFL, the Browns, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is where we should start because disappointing loss last night for this Cavalier team. I don't know if they're getting bored already. I don't know what the deal was, but they dug a huge hole at San Antonio, a team that was in an 11-game losing streak
Trying to
before
tank, by
they
the way.
flipped around to three.
Well,
They
the
won their
players
last
are
three.
not trying to tank.
They won their last
And
three.
Pops will never try and tank.
No,
You know,
Pop doesn't know
I
how to
don't-
lose
when
on
people,
purpose.
When people say, and I've said this before, like when the Browns went 1-6, 0-15, or 1-15, 0-16, I said the Browns were tanking, which they were. But we got to remember that when we say a team is tanking, the players are not tanking.
No, the GM.
coaches are
Sure.
not tanking. The organization has decided winning is not important. In fact, we don't care if we win or not.
They give the chef bad ingredients and tell them,
That's right.
This
Do
is
what
the
you
meal
can.
you're going to make.
But if you saw
You've got
Popovich on
spoiled
the side,
cottage cheese, make
Spoiled cottage cheese.
make your dinner.
Right, but if you saw Popovich on the sideline last night,
he was very much into it.
He wasn't looking to lose that
Especially
game.
at the end, down the
Yeah,
stretch,
he was going
when the
crazy.
lead was getting away.
God, I love that guy.
So it was awful because they gave up. This is becoming a characteristic of the team. I talked about the Friday after Thanksgiving. They let Milwaukee go on a 25-2 run.
Yeah.
The loss on Friday night, they let a terrible run go. Last night,
19-0.
going into the half, they were outscored 28-12. I don't know what it is, but for long stretches of games, they just they seem disinterested. They take bad shots.
Yeah.
It's like the basket has a lid on it. They give up all kinds of bad rebounds. It's like lack of hustle.
And
that
one was
happened
the
last
worst.
night.
This one was the worst because this team is the worst.
This was the
And
first sub-500 team they've
right.
lost to.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but Donovan Mitchell said after the game that they took them lightly.
Yeah.
The quote was, "We
Yeah.
played their record, not the team."
I liked hearing it from him.
Yeah,
I did too,
Yeah, I
because
like them
you got to call these
acknowledge
guys
it.
out, because that's exactly what they did. And
They
I
did.
got the sense that they just felt like, you know what, this is a bad team. We're going to save our energy for the end. We'll be okay. And in the end, they were not. Now, they did cut the 19-point lead down to a point. Then after being perfect at the free throw line all night, they miss a critical free throw that would have tied the game. So Mitchell gets a shot blocked with like 6 or 7 seconds to go, and I think Garland missed a three at the
Garland
buzzer.
missed a three.
So they lose now to the Spurs. It's their first loss to a sub-500 team all season. I think this is the worst loss of the year, in my opinion. What's your take on where they are? You're going to have losses like this. It's on the road. I get all that. But it just sucked when you lose to a team that you're way better than.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a microcosm of some of their issues all season than last night in particular. You mentioned the runs they seem to give up. I don't think it's them necessarily being disinterested. I think it's them being complacent and playing down to competition. It's a young team. I mean, you look across the board. Mobley's young. Allen's young. Mitchell is 25 years old.
Right.
He's
We
still
forget
a young
that
guy. Yeah,
sometimes.
he's been in the league for so long, but he's still young. Garland's young. And these guys still are learning to play within each other's abilities and strengths. So they go through stretches where it's like, hey,
Guys,
let's try this.
We have breaking Guardians news.
Oh, please.
I
signed a catcher.
They signed the catcher, Mike Zunino. I literally just tweeted about him yesterday.
Just talking about him. Yeah.
And it's just breaking
Who
now.
is that?
So Mike
a Mariners
Zunino is a
catcher.
guy.
He's the missing link. He'll work.
Mike Zunino is he's got tremendous power for a catcher.
He does.
His last year he missed like 3/4 of the season. He got hurt. In 2021, his last full season, I think he hit like 35 home runs.
Okay.
So there's big time power. Now
Whiff machine?
he strikes out an absurd amount.
He's all or nothing.
He's not going to hit
what
for
was
average.
the deal? Did you see?
There's no here. Ken Rosenthal doesn't have. I can't imagine it's too much money. It's so funny because if you see, go back. If you find my tweet, Mike,
It's in there,
Anthony,
Anthony. I put it in there.
I just tweeted yesterday that I think at this point Zunino made a lot of sense because I think what they're going to do is you're going to have Bo Naylor and Zunino share the catching duties.
Platoon.
You have a veteran. That's what I tweeted yesterday. Zunino on a one-year deal can make a lot of sense for the Guardians. Won't hit for average, but it's tremendous.
What is his
power.
career average? It's low 200s.
He's it's bad. I don't know what it is.
It's gonna be
but
pretty.
It's
pretty-
still better than Hedges.
Yeah, but he's as bad. Like he's not
He's
going to
an
hit
upgrade from Hedges, but it's not a dramatic upgrade
It's
from
not,
Hedges.
but he is a legitimate power source.
He is. He can
His
hit home
last
runs.
3 full seasons, I believe he's hit roughly 80, 85 home runs
Right.
in his last 3
Yeah.
full seasons.
The problem is-
that's almost 30 a year for a catcher. That's like
huge.
how many catchers hit an average of 25 or more home runs?
Anymore?
There's not many.
None.
But it's
Sean-
like,
Sean
Very
Murphy
few.
had hit
Salvador
35 in his career,
Perez,
yeah.
maybe Contreras, but
in
not
his
a lot
prime,
of guys.
Perez. Like, Perez isn't hitting 30 home runs a year now.
Well, it was 2 years ago. He still did.
Well, I know, but-
but like there's only like 5 guys maybe
Yeah.
that can hit 30+ home runs as a catcher.
you don't sound excited about this
I
overall.
mean,
though.
it's not exciting. He's
It's an
not-
upgrade.
But it is an upgrade.
and that's what you're looking to do.
There's no doubt.
It was an area of weakness,
Yes.
and now they're stronger in that position.
I guess I'm not excited because I thought if they got Sean Murphy, that was a massive upgrade.
Right.
Now
I was
you have-
disappointed, by the way, they did not get Murphy. I know
Right.
we're going to talk about that later. But,
Yeah.
I mean, who has more prospects to give up than us?
No,
And
and-
when you consider what the A's got for them,
Yeah.
it was a 3-way with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a haul. I looked at it and I'm like, we could have beat that off for a million
So what do you think
times.
happened there then?
I think the Guardians made the decision that they don't want to part ways with that many prospects and that they're going to be okay. It told me they like
Yeah.
Bo Naylor
And
more
the-
than I thought they did.
And the A's must like these prospects more than the general MLB consensus does. there's a lot of people around the league think this trade was a terrible trade by Oakland.
Well, I think what Oakland's doing is I call these shotgun trades. It's like it's like buckshot.
Let me get 7.
You're
pray
getting
one
so
turns
many
out. Yeah.
pieces.
Right.
If one or two work out, it's a deal.
They
It
got
works
4.
out for
They
you.
got a veteran catcher just to have, and then they got 4
But
young
none of
players.
them overwhelmed me. I thought that Cleveland could have put together a much better package with better prospects, probably fewer players, but better prospects that would have enticed the A's to make the deal.
Yeah, I'm stunned that they didn't. So that's why it's a little disappointing. But, I just said last night, hey, I think it makes sense. Based on what was left out there, Zunino's as good an all-around player. Again, batting average.
How old is Zunino, though?
He's probably 30.
Late 20s,
Yeah, I think
early
late
30s?
20s, early 30s.
I think he's about 30. I'll
Alexa,
look it up,
how old is Zunino? We need to get one of those in here.
We do.
Why
We
not?
really do.
But, the only thing about him striking out is the Guardians don't – like, the Guardians have a lot of guys that strike out.
No, that's true.
So it's not really that big a deal. He's a solid defensive catcher, so it's not like he's probably not quite as good as Austin Hedges, although Hedges can't throw anybody out.
He was doing well in the regular season. The playoffs, he was awful.
Now, Zunino, if you look at it, you look what he did last year. He got hurt.
Yeah, don't throw last year out.
He didn't play well. He played like
Right.
30 games or something before he got hurt. He is.
And he may have been playing while he was hurt, for all we know.
He's 31.
Okay.
He'll turn 32 right before the season.
That's good baseball age.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about where I thought
But
he was.
I'm sure it'd be a 1-year deal or maybe 2 at the most.
Right.
It's probably you're probably talking $6-7 million. So, as my guess.
The one thing I can't understand, and you guys please enlighten me, and Jason's mentioned this on the show before, is
Yeah.
the Guardians have such a plethora of prospects. At some point, they're going to have to put 3 or 4 of these guys together for a guy
Yeah,
like Sean
and they
Murphy.
still might.
Like so, and they still might.
Yeah.
And at some point, you look at the positions of need. We mentioned first base. We've mentioned catcher. They've made 2 moves at those positions now. We'll see what happens as the season progresses with some of these young guys, but where's the position you're going to upgrade? I guess maybe corner outfield still, but I like Quan.
No,
I like
set in the
Gonzalez.
outfield.
Yeah.
I think their outfield
what's
is
next?
set.
So what position
I
is
still
there?
think
to
they
You
make
still
a
need a
major
pitcher,
upgrade?
and I still think you need another bat.
Yeah,
By the way, 1 year, $6 million.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
about what I
right,
thought.
no risk.
right where you would expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, he's again. There's going to be a bunch of games where he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and everybody's be like, he's the same as Hedges. He's the same, and honestly, he could end up being not much better than Hedges.
He can't be.
You heard it here,
He
folks.
literally can't be worse than Hedges.
But he can't be worse.
Yeah, he literally can't be worse. Sorry, Anthony.
He does have legitimate power. I mean, he does.
All right, we'll come back to that
So-
because thanks for the update, Bull. It is an upgrade.
146 homers in his career.
It is an upgrade for sure at that
Yeah.
position. But it tells me more than anything that they're ready to go with Bo Naylor.
Yeah.
They
Naylor's
brought
going
him
to
up
play.
late last year. I don't think he had a single hit.
Not a single
No.
bet.
He
Right.
played
No, he
some
did.
games in
We
September.
were at the game where he batted actually, but he didn't get on
He
base.
didn't play much.
Yeah.
He did hit the ball hard a couple times, but
Yeah.
as my memory serves, he did not get a base hit. But they must have seen enough out of him to say, you know what, he's
Yeah.
on track, he's
yeah.
serviceable. We can platoon him, bring in a veteran to help
Yeah.
him along, and we'll see what happens.
what
All right,
they'll
back to our Cavs. Level of concern here. There's still 17-11 in the 3 seed. I know it's still we're not
couldn't-
even at the quarter pole of the season.
Couldn't be less concerned. I mean, the game was ugly. It was disappointing last night. It was one of those games where they couldn't get it going in the first half. I don't know what their trouble is on the road. I think they're kids. I think they're young. They're 1 and 8 in their 9 last games on the road.
Is that what they are?
They're
Yeah.
12 and 2 at home and 5 and 9 on
And
the road.
they're really solid at
Wow.
home. They're very comfortable there, and I think that's just the sign of like a young team. They're comfortable in their own place.
I didn't
That's too
realize
bad.
it was that bad on the road.
It's real bad. But then here's what I like to see, and it's they were off. They didn't have that one. Levert was good last night.
He did play well.
And usually they have somebody step up like that, but. Chetty's been off. They're so dependent. He's so hot and cold. They need somebody else consistent off the bench. The bench scoring was down compared to the Spurs yesterday. But like I said, I love the accountability out of Mitchell, and I love that he took that game over in the fourth quarter at the end. And he'd even you'd see some hesitation still on Garland sometimes when he had to take the game over in the fourth quarter, And even last year he improved on that a lot. But there was just absolutely no choice, no doubt in my mind that Donovan was going to take that game over, and he was going to take that last shot, and he seemed totally confident with it. And it almost paid off. They got 3 good looks at the basket at the very end. That's all you can ask for.
Sure.
Refs let him play. There was a little bit of contact, but I like that. I like that they didn't call anything in the last minute there.
Right.
But I love what he said after the game. He didn't say, when somebody said to him, "Do you think you took this team too lightly?" He wasn't like, "No, I don't think that was it. We come in and work hard." He's like, "Yeah, I think we did." Yeah. And that's what I think that's eventually going to pay off.
I like that too. We played the record, not the team.
Yes.
And you can't do that. If you do that in the NBA, you're going to get smacked. Let's bring in Serena Winters. She joins us now. Serena, Mike Polk just made a great point about the Cavs being, this sort of Jekyll and Hyde, great at home, and particularly recently really struggling and looking much different on the road. What have you noticed? Do you see that there's one thing in particular between their home and road performances so far?
I just think it's how they've come out at home versus the road, right? I mean, I think that we see an energy with the crowd and with being at home that they love, and you can feel it as soon as that opening tip happens. And I think we haven't felt that on the road, and I just feel like it's kind of as simple as that.
How do you combat that, Serena? And do you think that's something that they're aware of? Like, have they talked to you about that? Is Bickerstaff aware of that? And how do you flip that artificial switch on the road?
Have they considered traveling with Moondog?
I think traveling with Moondog is probably the number one consideration right now. I mean, look, Perry has told me the other day, he said, I wish that we could take these fans and take this energy and bottle it up and we'd have it on the road. So they're obviously aware of it, guys. I mean, to be honest, we ask about it constantly, right? We're always talking about home versus the road because that's been a huge storyline for this team. So are they talking about it? Are they aware of it? Yes. If you listen to all the post-game interviews I did last night, that's one of the first things that comes up is that they've got to figure out how to be the same team on the road that they are at home. So is it something they are aware of? Yes. Is it something that they talk about? Yes. But as Donovan Mitchell said last night in his postgame, they can say all the right things and talk about it as much as they want, but it's just a matter of going out and doing it. And so that's, I think, what we're kind of waiting to see.
Guys, it's disappointing. Like, I agree that I liked it. Mitchell admitted they kind of took them lightly. I liked it. I think it shows leadership on his part. But it's also disappointing that a Cavs team that we love and has all these great young players is taking anybody lightly when they've accomplished nothing. Mm-hmm. It's not like I know they made the play-in last year, but they didn't win there. They didn't really get to the playoffs. So I find that disappointing. Am I being unfair, Serena? What do you think?
Well, I think that what we're not thinking about is this is not some new thing. This isn't something that's just happening with the Cavs in the NBA. I mean, this happens with good teams all the time, every single season. It's just a matter of this happened last night, True. So it's on everybody's minds. I mean, you look at the Warriors, this was happening too, right? I mean, I understand that your point of what have they accomplished yet.
Right.
And to be honest with you, that point that you're making sounds like JB Bickerstaff, because JB is the first one to say, what have we accomplished yet? Nothing. So why are we coming out like this, right? Like, this is not something that they're glossing over. This is something that's clearly something that they need to work on. I just think we do have to put this in perspective that this happened last night, so it's on all of our minds, but this is not something new that's been happening in the NBA. I mean, I feel like at some point every season with any team I cover, this type of thing does come up with taking teams too lightly.
Serena, you've had an up-close and personal look at how Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland have started to mesh on the court together. I know earlier in the season there was some times where Garland deferred to Mitchell, Mitchell deferred to Garland. They seem to be playing more as a cohesive backcourt now. How much fun has it been from your perspective to see that relationship kind of grow on the court over the last couple of weeks?
I mean, for me being around all the time, it's fun to see it grow on and off the court. Like, there's stuff that I get to see with them at practice or when the cameras aren't on that it's not some fake relationship, right? Like, we're interviewing Donovan at practice or at shoot around yesterday morning, and Darius is in the back of the interview the whole time. He's coming to sit down and trying to mess with them. Like, I know that, you had the loss last night and you might want to gloss over those types of things, but that stuff matters. Like, I have been around so many different NBA teams now throughout my career, and what Donovan and Darius have right now, this is not some fake forging. Like, they are doing these types of things when the cameras aren't on, and I think that translates and will translate eventually to the court. They're still figuring each other out, right? Like, they're still figuring out how all of this works. We're, a little over a quarter of the way through the season. But what we are seeing is that when the season started out, these guys were overpassing. It's a good thing because you come to a new team and you don't want to stir the pot, right? Like Donovan doesn't want to come in here and think like he's taking everything over and stirring the pot. But what that was leading to on offense was passing up like wide open shots. And so we're finally starting to see them react to the defenses a bit more versus just overpassing. We didn't see it right against San Antonio, so let's throw that game out. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun to see these two guys. They're 4 years apart. And they're both so goofy. They're always making fun of each other. They're fun to be around.
Speaking of goofy, this is a little off topic, but I'm a huge fan and I'm intrigued by Robin Lopez and just his entire existence. Two-part question. First of all, when he insists on sitting on the ground rather than on the bench when he's waiting to go into the game. I want to know, I noticed that when he gets up to go into the game, somebody has to sit down and take his place. First part of my question, who is the person who is assigned to hold his place on the ground when he goes into the game? Second part question is why do he and his brother like Disney so much in Disney World, and do you think that's healthy?
Okay, well, I can say that they're Cali guys, right? So being from California and having Disneyland there, I think that is what has spurred all of this. Is it healthy? I mean, who am I to say what is healthy for an individual?
Right, subjective.
Safe answer, good answer.
Mm-hmm. I would say, not healthy with my lifestyle, but maybe it's healthy for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I will also tell you that I was chatting with Robin actually yesterday morning, and this guy he's so interesting, but he's always, as soon as shoot around finishes up or practice finishes up, he sits down and grabs his book. And I'm amazed at how many new books I've seen in the past 2 weeks. So yesterday I'm like, Robin, how many pages are you reading a day? And he's like, I try to get in like at least 100, 150 pages a day. I'm like, what? You are reading 100 and 150 pages a day throughout the NBA schedule? I mean, that's incredible. So he's a lot of fun to be around. He's such an interesting guy. I feel like there's so many layers to him. I wish I had the answer to your first question, but I think I might have to make that a sideline report. Please do a little
bit of recon on that for me. And also find out, I'd like to know some of the titles he's reading, because that's important. If it's like Young Vampire Lit, I'm not as impressed as if it's like some British classics. You understand?
I do understand. I was impressed yesterday by the title. I wish I had it for you, but it was. Let me tell you this: it was not Young Vampire Lit, and these things are like a lot of thick. Like it's going to take some time.
Nice.
Take some time to read through.
He has so many layers.
Well, smart guy.
He does.
Yeah.
Interesting guy.
Has Lopez and Moondog got along? I know Lopez has a interesting history with mascots. How are him and Moondog doing, Serena?
He does. I think that they're doing okay, guys. I do, and I think that there was, a lot of deep-seated drama for those two to really get past. And I think I'm starting to see some growth in their relationship. Not quite the Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell growth, but they're getting there. They're getting there.
That's a good crew that you're working with there, and we think that all of you are doing a great job. I love watching all of the games. I'm that sickie that's there every single night with you guys. Just so you know, and you're nailing it.
Appreciate that.
Have you found your adjustment to Cleveland, just out of curiosity so far?
Oh, man, I love it. I love it in Cleveland. I'm an East Sider now. I don't know if we've got any East Siders on the set.
Yep. Whoop, whoop.
Yep.
Here you go.
Okay.
What part?
There it is.
Where are you in the East Side?
Cleveland Heights.
Very nice.
Cleveland Heights.
Very
You're
nice.
not going to like me on the East Side when it starts to snow.
Oh, no.
Oh,
it's
that's
okay.
what everybody tells me. That's what everybody tells me.
It's okay. You can survive.
I love it.
You'll make it through.
I love it.
Hey, Serena, what is this team missing? We've talked on the set for the last couple of weeks about, now that we've had a chance to see them through about a third of the season, it seems like the three is still a question mark moving forward. One of the names that Brad Sellers continues to bring up is Carmelo Anthony. He thinks that bringing a guy like Carmelo in can help this team moving forward. As you've seen it, what element is missing, and do you see them making a move, bringing someone else in to try to fill that void?
Well, I think what's interesting, I don't know if you guys have talked about Dean Wade at all, but sometimes I think people forget that he's also out.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started the season, Dean was incredible.
He was.
He was on fire. he was such a great spacer for this group. And I think I bring that up because what we saw that worked to start the season around Donovan and Darius and Jarrett and Evan was somebody that could space the floor in that role versus, clog up the spacing. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen Karis LeVert come off the bench, right? Because of his skill set. And JB and Karis both trying to figure out how they best maximize his skill set and get the best out of him. And that has been in that bench unit with either Darius or Donovan versus having to play alongside those two all the time when Karis is a guy who isn't the catch and shoot type, right? Like he's so herky-jerky. He's like the ball in his hands. He's always finding the cracks, the crevices. And that's a great game. But for this group in that starting unit, what we saw with Dean is how much the space can help out everybody else. So, I mean, look, I don't know what the Cavs are doing behind the scenes. They're always going to do their due diligence if there's somebody that fits. But I think I bring that up because what we saw with Dean, and unfortunately he's been out now and is going to continue to be out, is that somebody who's a spacer, who can shoot, it can clearly help this group.
With Darius and Donovan on the court, they're going to be the two focal points of any offensive attack the Cavs put out there. But Evan Mobley has had times where we've seen him be more aggressive offensively than we've seen times where he's kind of faded into the background of whatever the Cavs are doing. Serena, from your perspective, does Evan have to be a little more aggressive on that end of the court if the Cavs are going to reach their full potential this season?
In terms of this season, I mean, that's how you couched it. I think I forget often that this is his second year. Evan is 21 years old.
Yeah,
he
is
incredible. And to watch some of his growth this year, first of all, he is talking so much more than I heard last season. That's going to be a huge step in his growth. Then we've seen games where J.A. hasn't played, right? And he's coming into his own, although when J.A. doesn't play, then he's a 5 out there, so he's switching positions. I think that the balance of, yes, Evan being aggressive and figuring all that out with Darius and Donovan, yes, of course, yes, the Cavs have to have Evan being aggressive for this team to reach their full potential. I think he is already being aggressive. I think it's just a matter of, it's his second year, he's 21 years old, and it takes time not just to figure those things out and to come into your own, but also to gain strength, to gain muscle, to know guys' tendencies, to feel comfortable in this group. So to answer your questions, yes, Evan Mobley is absolutely a key to the Cavs reaching their full-term potential. Absolutely, they need him aggressive. But the Cavs, and JB has talked about this, also have to figure out how to best unlock him, as they're also figuring out how do you best bring Donovan and Darius in. So I think it's just a matter of it taking a little bit of time and also realizing that Evans played a season and a quarter. And if you are really watching him this season and the growth he's already had since last year, he's already more aggressive than he was last year. He's not going to be the best version of Evan Mobley in year 2. We don't see guys' best versions of themselves when they're 21. We're seeing best versions of themselves when they're hitting year 4 and they've got these years under their belt, and now they're not second guessing themselves, right? And now they're being incredibly decisive with their decision making versus wondering whether or not coach might be upset or a player might be upset, because now they're so confident they're in their own element and they're not second guessing anything. And that is not something that comes overnight. And if you talk to anybody on this team about Evan who was around last year, they will tell you, man, he's more confident than he was last season. And that's what you want. As he goes to get more confident, the game becomes slower for him. It becomes more fun for him. He becomes more aggressive. So yes, they need him as aggressive as he can be, but it's just going to take a little bit.
It's a great point. We do forget how young he is. And
he's a baby.
And we have noticed, too, we've seen his maturity, not just, we're not around him. We don't see, how much he's come out of his shell just from a personality standpoint, but his game is different. It needs to come along. He needs to be, a little bit more aggressive offensively. And it is kind of trying to figure out that Rubik's Cube, how you get all of these stars involved to the right degree, and I'm sure JB's the guy to figure it out. Serena, thank you very much. Great having you on again. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks Serena. Go Cavs.
Very well done. And we passed the baton on our Ladies' Day Tuesday from Serena Winters and the Cavs to Mary Kay Cabot and the Browns. Mary Kay. Hey, I love the Christmas tree back there. It looks like it's growing right out of your living room.
It's only half decorated, but it's a start. So
it's coming along.
There we have it.
Yeah. Yep. That thing's monumental. That's a real ceiling kisser.
Yeah, I had to cut the top 2 feet off of it. I overshot it by 2 feet, but I was a little overzealous and I got a little excited.
Did you go to the Metro Parks to get that?
Practically, yeah. I could have gotten this right on my way to work one day up to Brown's practice over there by Masters. But I actually did go to a garden center and haul this thing back home.
Very nice. Very nice.
Hey, Mary Kay, what's the atmosphere like right now? Essentially, they've been. We all know they have like a 0.5% chance, whatever. But realistically, they're out of it. So it
could still happen
when the game is over. After the game, and as you go to the what do you expect? What was the atmosphere like in the locker room after the game, and what are you expecting it to be like this week?
Well, I think Myles Garrett summed it up pretty well after the game when he said, we're going to continue to try to kick the door down until someone tells us that we can't kick the door down anymore. And if we don't have any shot ourselves, then we'll try to spoil it for someone else. We have pride. We're going to leave it all out there. We're going to play for our fans this Saturday. And I think that's exactly what you're going to see. I think you'll see Deshaun Watson take another step up like he did last week. I think you'll see Myles Garrett go out there and do everything he possibly can to try to strap the team on his back and win this football game. I think you'll see a really great effort at First Energy Stadium on Saturday, even though for all intents and purposes, they have no playoffs at stake.
So there's 4 games left. I know the players obviously want to go out there and they want to win and they want to say all that stuff, but from a fan's perspective, there's no draft choice at stake here for at least in the first round. Realistically, as you look at the schedule, because you've got the 2 conference games and you've got 2 other games that are winnable, do you think that anybody is being evaluated in these final 4 jobs as to whether or not they'll be back next season? And if so, who are those individuals?
Well, certainly, yes. There will be guys that will be looked at over these next 4 games to determine if they are going to be back or not. And I think you can look at, a couple of people like, Kareem Hunt. He's asked to be traded. Will he be back? Greedy Williams, he was a healthy scratch last week. He's someone that I think you have to look at and wonder if he's going to be back. Jadeveon Clowney, I know he wants to play with Deshaun Watson, but his contract is also up. And he always kind of marches to his own drummer and makes his decision in his own time. But knowing that Deshaun Watson is here, I think he'll probably want to be back. And he had a really, really good game in Cincinnati. He was all over the place. Jadeveon is a very, very good football player, and I think he still has plenty left in the tank. I think there are some guys on the offensive line they'll have to take a look at. Jack Conklin is in the last year of his contract. I think they need to evaluate that position and make sure they feel really good about that. They have to see what's going to happen at center for them. So that's an area to look at. And then, a player like an Anthony Schwartz, I think he'll come back and get another chance next year. But, will he maybe be able to play in the final game and they can take another look at him? Jacoby Brissett, you guys are showing him right now. He's somebody that a decision will have to be made on.
What about coaches, Mary Kay?
Well, coaches, they're going to take a good hard look, I think, on the defensive side of the ball and on special teams. I think Kevin Stefanski is safe. But on the other sides of the ball, I do think that they will look long and hard at those things and try to determine, did the defense underachieve because of anything that went on schematically or didn't happen schematically? Were these coaching issues? Were these personnel issues? So they will have those very difficult discussions in the offseason on those sides of the ball.
Mary Kay, you say Stefanski's safe. I would think so. I guess my thought is, though, with Jimmy Haslam, I guess you never know. But, I think he's had his worst year as a head coach, in my opinion, this year. I wouldn't fire him personally. but I figure he's going to be on the hot seat. But as you say with the other coaches, I mean, I think Joe Woods and Mike Prefer both have to go. I think they've overall, through 3 seasons, done a bad job. I would replace them both. If you had to bet right now, I obviously think Stefanski's going to be back. Ultimately, do you think Woods and Prefer will be gone?
Well, that's why I mentioned I think that they will have the hard discussions that they need to have about those situations. And you can't go into those discussions saying, oh, they're definitely going to be gone. But I think that it's pretty safe to say that those two coaches will get a long look at the offseason, and they'll decide. Again, was it the fact that they did not add enough talent at the defensive tackle position and that they had many injuries at the middle linebacker position? Or was it something else? Was it that, that Greg Newsome was playing out of position? Or was it that, John Johnson III isn't doing some of the things that he did when he was with the Rams? So they'll take a long, hard look at it. If they determine that it was more than, just some guys not playing up to their potential, because I think there was plenty of that. I mean, we all heard and thought all along the way that, we were going to see these great seasons from Jordan Elliott and JOK and Grant Delpit and all these guys. And for whatever reason, those things didn't really materialize the way anybody thought they would. So it all has to be put into the hopper, and they have to decide what they're going to do with those sides of the ball.
Mary Kay, you mentioned Deshaun Watson's progression from game 1 to game 2. You expect an even bigger progression now heading into game 3. We only see him on Sundays. You see him multiple times throughout the week at practice. Was it noticeable to you heading into Sunday's game against Cincinnati that he was getting more comfortable with these guys in practice? And is that something we can expect to continue as he continues to practice with these guys and get more reps and get that timing down? Like, was it noticeable, the progression?
Yeah, I mean, I can't honestly say that, when I watched practice and the, first 15 minutes that we're allowed to watch, that he looked significantly better than he did during training camp or any of the offseason practices that we saw. But what I did see was that he was, running from drill to drill. He was trying to, get the speed and the tempo of the game. He did not have Amari Cooper in practice most of the week. He didn't have David Bell in practice most of the week. So when we were out there, he was throwing mostly to Michael Woods. Anthony Schwartz had a concussion. So he was throwing to Michael Woods and Donovan Peoples-Jones for the most part, and then some practice squad guys. So no, I can't honestly say that I could tell in practice last week that he was going to get better, but just by virtue of getting that whole first game under his belt and out of the way and all the emotions and all the things that went on in Houston, I think he just had to know that he was going to be significantly better. Now, having said that, it still is hard to go out there without having any practice with Amari Cooper throughout the week and have it look significantly better. Or when you are under pressure, I mean, his rating under pressure was something like 27 compared to like 96 when kept clean. When you're going to be under that much pressure, it's still not going to look that great at times. But I think you'll see him, even take another leap up this week.
Let's talk about the response to Deshaun. You were in Cincinnati. We heard the response as soon as he came out there. A lot of boo birds. It wasn't obviously that big of a deal in Houston because the only people there were lunatics, and there were like 75 people there, obviously. But in Cincy, you had a rivalry game, actual fans. They hate us because we're Cleveland, and they're still mad because we won the Civil War and whatnot up here because they're a Confederate state essentially down there. So all the reasons in the world to hate us. They booed the heck out of him, seemed to calm down after the first quarter. Was that the case, and how do you think that affected him, and what do you think it'll be like moving forward?
Well, I think he knows that he has to block out all of this stuff. There are going to be chants. There are going to be signs. Fans are going to do whatever they possibly can to get inside his head. I think he handled it better this game. It will get to him at times because, as he mentioned last week when I asked him if Houston hit him harder than he thought it would, he said, I'm human. And he is human. So when he hears the kinds of things that he hears at these games, it is going to rattle him somewhat. But I think as he, goes through each week, it will get perhaps a little bit easier for him. I'm not 100% sure about that, but he does have the support of his teammates. They come to his defense. They have his back. Jacoby Brissett has been very helpful in that regard. So have others. So, they all know that they have to kind of close ranks and get through this.
Mary Kay, yesterday, as we were sort of taking inventory of the loss and ultimately the season that slipped away, Jim Donovan was on with me on the 5 o'clock hour. And I know that you talked to Jimmy. We all respect Jimmy's opinion. His view from 30,000 feet of the Browns is as accurate as anyone that I know. And I thought I was a little bit surprised because Jimmy can be a little reserved sometimes, but he always speaks his mind. I thought Jimmy was emphatic on one point that he made during our discussion, and that was that the Browns, in their building of this team, as they're collecting players and building this roster, he made it a strong point to say very plainly they have to draft smarter players, making it a point to say the mistakes that have happened for a big part of them, defensively especially, have been mental. And he really, really brought into question sort of the football IQ of this team. Is that as big an issue as Jimmy sort of made it out to be? Because it seems to be that he's right. And if so, is the organization aware of that, and how will they pivot?
Well, I'll tell you what I think about that. I think that some of it is the fact that the players are young. And some of that wisdom, that football wisdom, comes as you are around the game a little bit more and you see more and you hear more and you're coached more. So I don't think it's necessarily a football IQ issue at all, because they make a point of drafting very, very smart players. I think in some cases it's that they're young and they're inexperienced. Now, as Sione Takitaki went along in his career, he suddenly became a really smart player this year because the game slowed down for him. He understood exactly where he fit in the scheme of things. He knew where he was supposed to be. He knew where everybody else was supposed to be. And, he was able to be a field general because of it. Then you take a young player like a Tony Fields who has not played much on defense, and you're occasionally going to get a mistake or you're going to go too hard at the punter. So I don't think it's a matter of football IQ, because they make a big, huge point of drafting super smart players. So I really don't think it's that as much as it is youth and inexperience in some cases.
Mary Kay, you mentioned Jack Conklin before. James Hudson was a fairly high draft pick. He's played well when he's had an opportunity. I assume, I know you talked about they're going to make a decision on Conklin. I mean, the money he's making and the way he's playing, I got to assume he's cut at the end of this year. Is there a chance they're going to play Hudson over him the rest of the way? Don't we need to see him play regularly? To me, I don't see any point of continuing to play Conklin over him. What do you think about that?
Well, in some cases, I think you will find that if there is a veteran that has an injury or some reason that it might be better for them to rest, now is going to be the time to play some of those younger guys and to see what they can do. So I do think it probably would be prudent for them to play some James Hudson and see if he can handle the job full time for next year. I think there are some other guys in that category. There are some receivers that you kind of want to give them some more time and see what they can do. It might get to the point where, even though Myles Garrett said there's absolutely no way he's going to shut it down until they drag him off the field, I think it might be pretty wise to roll him out of there a little bit and roll in a little bit more of an Isaiah Thomas or an Alex Wright and let those guys see what they can do. So I do think, to a certain extent, this is an opportunity to see what you have in some of the younger guys.
Mary Kay, I couldn't agree more. To me, this feels like September in a baseball season where you're 30 games out of first place. You shut down a lot of your position guys. You call up guys from the minor leagues. It's time to see what you have. I want to know what Jerome Ford can do. Because if Kareem Hunt does move on, it's likely that he will. Is it Jerome Ford? Is it Dearness Johnson? And that's what it's sad to say, but that's where this franchise is right now. And we're in the last quarter of the season. I hope they do shut Myles Garrett down. What are we going to learn about Myles Garrett in the next 4 games that we don't already know? Why put those miles on his body when the end game is obviously to make the playoffs and that ship has sailed? Seems silly.
Yeah. Right, and especially if there are some guys that are going to need a surgery after the season, and we don't know yet about this. I mean, if he needs a little bit of a cleanup, you might want to get a jump on that. I'm actually wondering about, maybe an Amari Cooper and what's going on with him. Talking about having a core muscle issue. Sometimes that might, be something that they want to take a longer look at, and it's a chance for some of the younger guys to maybe play, maybe some of the practice squad guys, call them up a little bit and see what they can do. But certainly this should be an opportunity for some of those guys, because you want to see what Deshaun Watson is going to have for next season. You need to know. I mean, what do we need to do at right tackle? What do we need to do at center, receiver? As you mentioned, running back. See what Jerome Ford can do. Throw him the ball out of the backfield a few times and, see how he can handle it. Get him ready for 2023, because they've got to hit the ground running next year. They're not going to have time for any ramping up period.
Mary Kay, I wanted to wrap it up with this. We're going to actually talk about more on the show after this. We dove into everything involving the Bengals and Browns this past Sunday, the fourth down play, which I thought was crazy, whatever. But there's one play we accidentally didn't get to, which we're going to get to next, and that's the Samaje Perine touchdown, the second Bengal touchdown. He goes into the middle of the line. He kind of gets stopped, basically, and Clowney just kind of runs by him, and then Perine peels out and goes in for a touchdown. It seemed like Clowney and some of the other guys quit on that play. Did anybody get an explanation on that and what happened on that play?
No, we did not per se get an explanation on that play, but you're right. I mean, that was a play where he shouldn't have been able to make that second effort and get in there that easily. But these are some of the issues that the Browns have had on defense all season long, with their run defense. And like I said before, I think Jadeveon had a really, really great hustle game. I thought he was excellent in that game. In fact, he graded out over 90 according to Pro Football Focus, which I haven't looked yet, but it's got to be one of the highest on the team and one of the highest in the league defensively for last week's games. So he, on that particular play, perhaps I think he thought he had him down, thought he had him stopped. He's not really one to give up on a play. I suppose I'd have to go back and look at it again. Yeah. I did not really study that play per se, but that's just, one of the issues that they have had with their run defense this season is that not everyone is always swarming to the ball and making sure that they're getting that guy down.
Thanks, Mary Kay.
Yeah, Mary Kay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Hall of Fame writer Mary Kay Cabot.
Stay strong, Mary Kay. Keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Sometimes when I listen to Jimmy, I always feel sorry for Jimmy when the season's lost and he's calling these games. And really, that's been the case for the last 25 years. Well, I've listened to him from afar, and I'm like, this poor guy.
Think about it. He's the only constant.
He's held hostage.
He's the only constant. The ownership has changed. How many different GMs have there been? How many different coaches?
Now Doug Deacon has changed.
Yes, even Doug Deacon's gone. He's he really is. He's the last one. He's been there the longest. He has the longest tenure in the Browns organization.
And it's hard. I feel badly for him. And Mary Kay too. Mary Kay's been on this beat forever.
Yep.
And if we get frustrated, and we do, we turn off the television and we go make valuable use of our time.
Yes,
he can't.
Jimmy can't, Mary Kay can't, and there's times where I'm like, these poor souls.
I know.
I need escape hatches, and they can't take any.
So now just imagine, though, how we feel when different GMs come into town, and how many regimes have you just seen? So how many did we see even before you got here? Yeah. And then they all come in, though, and we're like we all have trauma, obviously. We all have PTSD, and we're just like, is this going to work? This guy's like, of course it's going to work out. I'm just going to put everything in the right position. Going to get the right coach. I've done this in different towns. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been hired.
Right.
I've done this before. I know what I'm doing,
and we're all laughing.
And we're like, okay. And then, sure enough, it's, within like 2 years, that guy leaves. He has white hair now. He's aged like a president. and he's like, I don't know what happened. And then, because you can't, until you've actually come here and tried to turn this organization around, you cannot understand what it is.
I know, we know it, but you know why he wouldn't have aged as much if he had some Built Bar?
Exactly.
He starts every morning with a Built Bar. That's why he's been able to sustain his energy throughout 30-plus years of watching Cleveland Browns football. And
that's how he's done it.
Jimmy Donovan, Jimmy Haslam, Mike Lucas, Jay Crawford.
Are we accidentally pretending that Jim Donovan supports Built Bars? Are we sponsoring it on his behalf right now?
Hold on.
Jim Donovan, the official spokesman of Built Bars.
Yeah,
who's doing the read? Is this Anthony? Because Anthony's in your chair today.
I'm just saying, too, a great way to wash a Built Bar down is Cleveland whiskey.
I do them both all the time.
That's
a nice little
breakfast of champions.
Visit your local liquor store. Take some home today.
It's called a Cleveland breakfast. breakfast.
Drink responsibly, everybody.
Whiskey and a Built Bar. I thought that was
right.
beer and a Built Bar.
No,
That's
it's
going to be my
whiskey
Christmas
now.
morning
Beer
breakfast.
and pierogi. That's
Yeah.
a
Built
Cleveland
Bar and a shot of Cleveland whiskey. It
By the
doesn't
way,
get any better than that.
I think a lot of people missed that play.
It's what we talked early.
You know,
back
I
there,
think
we
what
talked
happened,
about
Bill,
it
was
that morning.
I don't know that a lot of people missed it. It's so funny when you lose, all of the negative plays come to light, all of them. There were a lot of them. And when you win, all of the negative plays get buried. Winning hides the warts. So I think.
But they didn't win.
No, I know, but there were so many warts.
Yes.
That, like there was like the roughing the punter,
Right.
the penalties. Why the hell you're bringing in Jacoby Brissett
Right.
to throw a corner route in
Yes,
the
if
end
he
zone?
would've connected on that,
and
would
by
we
the way,
be talking about
to
it?
me at that
Yes.
point the game
Yeah.
was over.
No, that was only the second touchdown.
I know, but it felt
was-
like it might as well. To me, it felt like it was, even though it wasn't. It felt like 100-0.
But it was 7-0 at the time, and the Bengals, may have scored anyway. But
well, I think they were going to score anyway. They were.
I think
what
that's
was it,
part
a
of the reason
12-yard
it got
run or something?
No,
no, it was
6
a
yards.
6-yard run.
I think
Okay,
that's
I
part of
mean-
the reason why it got buried, Bull,
Yeah.
was because it was first and goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
but
from
here's
the
the
six.
thing,
They were
though.
gonna
Here's why
score.
it really stood out to me.
They
is
gave up
because
the effort.
It felt like they quit on that
They
play.
did. Mm-hmm.
As all
Yeah.
these other plays are
I wish
F-ups.
we could show it.
But that play, and
Do you want me to reenact it?
I don't know that guys were actively quitting.
I'll be
Bullish
Jadeveon
Perine,
Clowney.
you're Jadeveon.
For some reason, they all thought he was down. I don't know if they thought.
And that happens. I mean,
But
you
that
don't
was
want to see it happen.
But he wasn't close to being
that
down.
that was egregiously bad because you're right, Bull. It didn't look like he ever actually got wrapped up. He
Yeah.
ran into the back of his offensive
Right.
lineman. The
And he
defense
slowed
stopped,
down.
slowed down. Everyone starts
and
walking
Clowney
by.
was right
a matter of-
behind him.
Yeah, no,
He was
and
literally
did nothing-
right
and did
behind
nothing.
him.
They're not
Walked
playing.
off past
They're
him.
not playing through the play and making sure that it's
No.
finished.
and you
and
know,
there
I
wasn't
know-
even a fake whistle. There wasn't like
No,
on second
right.
replay like,
Exactly.
oh, I could see how they thought the play.
Right.
There was nothing. It just
I want to drill down on what Mary Kay said about the intelligence of the players, because Jim, who there's not a voice.
What did he say
that
exactly?
I wish we could play it.
Yeah.
He was very strong in his. He made about a 30 to 45 second answer about, after watching this team to this point in the season, it is clear, it is obvious, they have to make a point to draft smarter players. He talked about how the organization said you can draft all the fast players you want.
Right.
You can draft all of this, all of that. But if you don't have smart players, you can't win.
It is weird because it seems from watching that they are missing some football IQ.
And
however,
I
think,
agree with Jimmy.
Right, I agree
I
with that
don't
too.
agree with Mary Kay.
But
when she
however,
says it's youth. We're
but
not a
however,
young defense.
Well, no, I don't agree with that either. But I do think Mary Kay's right. I do think part of their analysis is we want smart players. But it seems like they've not gotten that right, at least on defense.
It doesn't.
Can't you coach stupid, though? We've had a lot of stupid players in the NFL who have done very well for
I don't
themselves.
know if you can in 2022. I think things are so complex.
I think
Really?
it's funny that we often, and it's a lot of it's G and especially Brad, complain that the coaching staff thinks they're too. The coaching staff is too smart and the players are too stupid. So
We're the only ones who are just smart enough.
But
We're
they're-
the only
we
ones.
want guys to be smart, but not too smart.
Just like us. Be like us.
there is a difference though, and I'll reference basketball. I know it's not exactly apples to apples. You could understand the nuances and what's supposed to happen in a certain basketball play and get in a game situation, and it all goes out the wind. So they may be drafting guys they believe are technically smart football players, and they get in those situations, and they can't replicate what is supposed to happen and what their knowledge of the game is situationally.
Yeah.
And Tyvus breaks down the plays. When you see a tight end, on the line, that changes your formation. All these guys have to communicate back and forth. You could technically get a good Wonderlic score, test well in all those pre-draft interviews.
I've had
and be
guys
a
tell
smart
me the
football
whole
player.
Wonderlic, the notion of one. Like if you're a linebacker, and you're reacting to an action.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, that's
like-
why.
it's like
I always go back to Andy Katzenmoyer, and I'm not saying Andy Katzenmoyer wasn't smart. I used to watch Andy Katzenmoyer, and when you talk to Andy, he wasn't.
He's saying he's stupid. He
Wasn't
doesn't
going
wanna
to be.
say
He
it.
wasn't going to be confused for someone who was
It's
intellectual.
It's book smart for street
But
smart.
he was the Bosa brothers.
But no, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But on the field, Andy was brilliant.
Right.
He was just brilliant.
Yeah.
I would watch him sometimes from the back end zone. So the defense is coming towards us, or the offense rather is coming towards us, and I would just watch so I can see two things: Andy and the ball, the quarterback.
Yeah.
And he was like the center fielder that broke on the ball before the hitter swung on it because he knew he was going to swing late and it was going to go the other way.
Right.
And that's a thing. That's a real thing that you have intellectually
you
as
can
a
be-
center fielder.
Right. You can be book smart, but
Yeah.
not
And
Street
Andy
smart,
was a
no
great
football
example of that.
smart.
Andy, I'm sure Andy did fine in school and was great there, but his IQ on the football field was a billion. He just could feel the flow before it happened. And then his physical attributes were so great. So you can, and by the way, there have been players that were Mensa, that were Rhodes Scholars, that were good physical athletes, but when they got in the flow of the game, they just got lost. It happens. I've talked to coaches about it. And I'm not sure that I'm not saying these guys as a unit are not intelligent. It was just striking to me how adamant Jimmy was that this organization has to pivot and start drafting smarter players.
I wonder if when he said that he more of meant less intelligence and more instincts. Because you see guys with great football instincts who, like you said, Andy Katz. I've never actually met him at the charity softball game.
Andy Katzenmoyer was a beast. If not for a back injury, he probably would have been Dick Butkus-like.
And the way you described him, he had the football instinct. That he could almost know where the ball was going before a quarterback even knew where he was throwing it.
Frank Gore had a 6 on the Wonderlic. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Great player.
Yeah, sure.
Dumb as a bag of hammers.
Yeah.
Still did fine.
And there are some certain football instincts that can overtake any
There are also guys that nailed that Wonderlic.
Yeah.
And were physical attributes.
Right.
You know, they were physical specimens, but they got
I never
in the league
care
and
about a player's run.
Well, I think they even stopped the Wonderlic.
only quarterbacks do it now.
Okay.
Only quarterbacks.
Yeah, I knew that everybody, they used to administer it to most of the players.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really trust Jim Donovan. I really do. He spends a lot of time around this team. He knows football. When he sees something, he has a way of dissecting it and translating it to the English language as well as anybody that I've ever worked with or worked around. Jimmy
how do you apply that?
A savant.
How do you apply that? How does he want the Browns to apply that? Does he want them to test them more rigorously? Does he think to prioritize that over 40 speed?
I don't know. We didn't drill down on it with Jim.
But what would you think you would do to try and make sure that your players are smarter? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm just not sure.
Yeah,
I don't want to
especially
speak
if it's
for Jimmy.
football smarts. Like, I don't even know how you determine that necessarily.
Right.
Well, there's ways to do it. I know that one of the things John Gruden used to love to do is just go into the chalk room. And it became a wildly popular segment at ESPN when he would do his blackboard segments with his quarterbacks. And he would say, not on air, but he would tell people off the air at ESPN, I can usually tell within 15 to 20 minutes what I'm dealing with.
But yet when he went back to the Raiders, he drafted horribly.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, drafting's different
I don't know. The quarterback was already there when he went back to the Raiders. He didn't draft Carr.
Right, but Carr's a pretty good player.
I know. What I'm saying is, I don't want to put Carr on Gruden as a draft pick.
Right.
He didn't draft him.
Right.
And by the way,
Carr's good.
From those, he's an underachiever in my opinion. I think he's got more ability than he's ever scratched.
He's okay.
I think he can be better. He's got an all-time great.
He had a
receiver
really great
right
year
now.
last year, and then this year he's been in this.
He did. He's up and down. You know what?
He's never won a playoff game. Not one.
I know.
I didn't know
in
that.
a lot of
Baker
years.
Mayfield has
in a
one
lot
more
of years
playoff win than he does. What?
Oh, we're still waiting on the DD. I was just
Oh,
letting
okay.
you guys know.
Okay. Your volume's awfully low. I don't know if you can turn up or whatever, but
Mike's too loud,
I don't mind it. I
Anthony's
think
too
it's
low.
kind of nice.
I don't know. I don't even want to make too big of an issue of it. I'm
Yeah.
certainly not going to say that this is a dumb defense. But the one thing that I will say is from watching them all season long, I've seen them habitually make the same mistake over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's not a great sign.
But isn't that coaching too?
Some of it is, yes.
It's coaching. Some of it could be football IQ. I mean, we know Myles Garrett's a smart guy. Anthony Walker's a smart guy. Greg Newsom's a smart guy. Denzel Ward's a smart guy.
Joel Bitonio's a smart guy.
No, I'm talking just specifically on the defense.
Oh, on defense, okay.
Joel Bitonio. But, like, you talk to people, and I've talked to all those guys, not recently, but since they've been here, and those guys are all smart guys. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have a high football IQ, right? I mean,
there's a difference.
And I think instincts, I know I said it before, plays a big role in it. And I was just thinking they're playing the Ravens this week. How many times do you watch a Ravens game and Roquan Smith is meeting the running back in the hole just based on he sees the formation, he did his film study, he almost knows what's coming, and next thing you know, it's a 1 yard gain.
Football IQ.
That's a football IQ.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of the Browns, and there's been 2 or 3 times this year where JOK's made a play like that. But how often is it 3-4 yards into the second?
Dennis Rodman had one of the highest basketball Qs ever, and the guy's dumb as a stump.
The reason that I'm not as down as I feel like you are, and a lot of the Browns fan base understandably is right now, is that I kind of saw. I mean, you saw this coming. I didn't think we were going to the playoffs. I didn't think we were going to the playoffs this year at the beginning of the season.
What I didn't see coming is the defense being this poor.
It is,
I didn't either.
But what I'm saying is now, I mean, I think we're kind of resigned to this. And now I'm kind of looking at it as I'm looking forward to watching how this team comes together in the last few games. Realistically, I want to see some of these young guys. I want to see him. I want to see Watson get better. I want build my hope for next year. And I know that that's a lousy thing for people to hear, but at this, I've been resigned to that for a while, and I think that's why I'm not so.
Here's one of the things that why I am where I am. I think the NFL, and I think this stands true for just about every single year. You can break it down into 3 camps. You have 6 really good teams. You have 6 really bad teams. And you have 20 teams that are in the middle. And those teams in the middle forge their own fate by doing one thing, making the little things happen throughout the course of the season consistently.
Yeah.
And I know that you're going to get breaks and you're going to lose players to injury, and the Browns have been decimated with some key injuries this year, and that is a check in the bad column for them. However, when you go back and you micro all of the losses that the Browns have had, a couple of things in each one of those losses, and the Browns aren't 5-8, they're easily 8-5, maybe 9-4.
And those things could turn around in 1 year.
They can. Now, here's my problem with that. The Browns always, to me, seem to be, now, for decades, they were in that 6 that you don't want to be in.
Yes.
Horrible teams. But here in the last 4 years, I think they're firmly entrenched in that middle group of 20.
Right.
But here's what I've seen consistently through those 4 years. We are not making plays consistently. We are not doing all the little things. We are not making victories out of defeats.
Yes.
We are making defeats out of victories.
Yes.
And that's a culture thing.
I think in 2019 they were doing those things.
We did.
Excuse me, in 2020.
But
in
you know what? The
21 and
more I
22
think
they
about
haven't.
2020,
Yeah.
the more I say aberration. Throw it out. It was the COVID year. Everything was upside down. Nobody was coming into the facility. What I think we proved in 2020 is Stefanski was great at managing a crisis because he's super smart and super organized, and he was able to better manage the COVID maze than the other teams were.
But Jay, here's the thing.
His body of work, Bull, in the other 2 seasons that he's been
I can't disagree with you.
Underachieved.
However, I can't disagree with you. I don't know if they've underachieved this year. I guess we'll see what their final record is.
Bull, I think they've massively underachieved this year.
If they finish 8-9, which I don't think they will.
I don't see them going 3-1. They're going to beat the Ravens, the Steelers.
I do think they're going to go 3-1. I think they're
Commander.
going to finish 8-9.
I say optimistically 2-2.
But here's the thing. How many of those top 6 teams are consistently in the top 6 without a franchise level quarterback?
No, I don't think you can be.
Right.
I don't think you can be.
Yeah.
But my point is, if you're going to be in that group of 20, you have to find ways to do the little things to turn defeats into wins. And the Browns have consistently found ways to do little things to turn wins into losses.
True, but that's why, and again, I can't believe I'm the positive voice right now, but that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to in these last few games because I think that we saw why they sacrificed the future, our souls, draft picks for this quarterback. I mean, we know why we did this. We think that we are missing that piece that can give you that sort of magic that you're going for. Throughout the season, sometimes it did feel like we were one play, one throw, one little something away.
We were.
And I think that now combine that with this quarterback, get him in shape, this one who I think I saw in this last week is capable of those sorts of little magic plays. You saw when he had somebody dragging on his legs, him still completing that. He did, and you're still seeing it. He's shaking rest off, and I can't promise he's going to get there, but you could see those moments of magic that you cannot get out of Jacoby Brissett or so many other quarterbacks.
I'm going to run with it.
And so I want to see what that magic can do with some experience and knocking that.
Let me give you this. Think about the first 7 picks in the NFL draft in 2021. That's just 2 drafts ago, which means these were the 7 worst teams in the league 2 years ago. The first pick, Jacksonville, looks like they're on the upswing.
Sure.
The second pick, the Jets, clearly on the upswing.
Despite the quarterback being terrible in that pick.
That's true. The third pick, the Niners, clearly a good team. The fourth pick.
Niners were a good team. That was a draft pick.
That was probably got that pick.
True.
Probably got that pick from us.
Let's not conflate that.
How many of these people got our first
They had the
draft
12th pick in that draft originally.
You're right. You're right. The 4th pick, Atlanta, they still suck. The 5th pick, the Bengals, clearly a good team. The 6th pick, Miami, clearly a good team.
Yep.
And the 7th pick, Detroit, on an upswing.
Do you know what's more common than everything you mentioned?
Yeah.
I think 5 of those 7 teams have a new head coach. Kyle Shanahan's the other one.
Yeah.
No, Zach Taylor's been there since then.
Bill Taylor's the one I didn't
Also,
mention.
they
But
all
you have the Jaguars who have Doug Peterson.
No, and San Francisco hasn't changed their coach.
Exactly. So
All
I said
those
5
San
and 7.
Francisco and Cincinnati are the only
Okay.
two of those 7 that I have.
Jacksonville, new coach.
Jets, new coach.
New York
Jets,
Jets, new coach. All of the other ones, new coach.
Miami,
Yeah.
new coach. Detroit. Is this his second or
Dan
third?
Campbell.
No,
Second-
he's new.
second year.
Campbell. Let's
So-
bring in Aditi. Our day's going to get better automatically. Hi, Aditi.
Hi, my friends. How are you doing?
You look sad.
Yeah,
What's the
that was
matter?
not a very
Yeah, that was
energetic
an
high,
ex-
Aditi. What's up?
exasperating
Yeah,
high.
you know, it's just like everything is going wrong right now, and I'm not quite sure. Sorry, how
I'm
to
sorry.
juggle it all. No, but Jay, I'm so happy to see you, and I hope that you are feeling good.
I am. Thank you for checking. I appreciated your text.
Of course.
You know, some residual head and neck pain, but other than that,
Cha-ching.
you know,
Sorry.
no.
Nope.
Everybody, God, it's so weird.
I know.
Like I literally told the insurance agent when he's called twice to check on me. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not litigious at all. This woman did nothing.
Of
I mean,
course
she made a
not.
mistake. She ran a stop sign. I get it.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I'm thankful that
I don't
standing in one piece. I'm sure I'm going to have some visits to the chiro, and I'm going to be great. The car is going to be replaced. Everybody's fine. So.
I'd be wearing a neck brace, and that lady would be buying me a summer home right now.
Can I ask you guys a favor? I'm really sorry, but there is like a little crisis going on downstairs, and
Go
it
put
actually
out
has
the
nothing
fire.
to do with my children.
No,
Can
we'll
I
check
just
out
run
what books
downstairs
you
for
have.
30 seconds, and I'll be right back?
Go ahead. We're going to
All
look at
right.
your books.
Go take
Go.
care of it.
We're going to look at your books. Hey,
What
Anthony,
could
can you
crisis
zoom
be?
in
What
on
is
her
crisis?
books?
I'm curious what her
No,
crisis
We're on it.
We can't
Yeah.
zoom in on a Zoom.
Never mind. We can't do that.
That's only controlled by
I've seen
her
in
camera.
movies that they can say enhance it. I can't do that. We don't have that technology where
We're
you go
not currently
enhance it.
hunting Jason Bourne. I
Oh,
don't
we're
think we
not
have that technology. I'm
CSI.
sorry.
All right. Well, I'd like to see what her books. I'll bet you they're real smart lady
By the
books.
way, real quick. So I've been watching. There's
And I'll close this door.
a limited. Oh, it's
Not bad.
Aditi back.
No, we're just.
I love
No, we
that
just
sign.
zoomed in.
I love that
Steve
sign
played
that she
around.
usually blocks.
Oh, good. Look what you're doing. Let's see. What do we
so
got
he
there?
has zoomed in.
That's
Hey,
impressive.
I guess Steve must have
Steve
cropped
has more
the
tricks
shot.
than we know about.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
the football
Steve
book.
is back there, and we got a signed ball by I don't know who. All right,
That looks like a whole
enhance,
team
Steve,
of players.
enhance. Okay,
It's like CSI.
yeah, it's all right.
Run it through the purifier.
Yes, all right. I
Flip
want
to 8K.
wave some UV lights over that.
I'm calling in on VMix tomorrow for a very special segment, and I just want to ask, can we not zoom in on anything in the background? Thank
And-
you.
Yeah, and ask if we can
Paul,
enhance.
what were you
You're
saying?
safe.
Sorry, Will.
No, it's fine. I'll get to it later. It was about it. Well, I was saying there's a TV show that I've been watching. I mentioned it really quick to you, Mike, or maybe I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I can't remember now. Called Welcome to Chippendales.
Yes.
Right, which tells
Oh,
the
that's
story.
it's a Netflix. Is
and
it-
I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll get to it later.
Let's bring
I was
her in.
curious
She,
about that.
she wants to. Yeah.
Are you watching Welcome to Chippendales, Aditi?
I'm not watching anything. Like
I'm
not
literally,
either.
not
That's your
even
problem.
This is what's terrible about my career right here is that somehow sports reporting has like evolved into how well you can speak on current pop culture, and I can't. I have
That's
like
right,
6
Aditi.
jobs, 2 small children, a house that's falling down on me, and I just have missed every show that anybody's talking
gotta
about. White
take some
Lotus? I don't
priorities.
even know what White Lotus is about, other
I
than
don't either.
the last
White
Don't
Lotus
spoil-
is
episode
don't
of
spoil it.
finale was really
Don't spoil
long.
it.
I watch sporting
I got
events,
3
and that's
jobs,
it.
and I'm,
Yeah.
I got a kid, I got a wife, I got to take care of.
Some of that time you're playing tennis or
I figured it out.
get rid of that.
I did yoga for the first time in a long time last night. I'm
Nice.
running. Yeah.
Very good.
Well done.
You know, but it's amazing because it's like you really wonder where the hours of the day go.
Yes.
And it's just, I feel like I'm spending most of the hours of my day doing dishes and picking up toys.
Well, you're a mom, and you're in the throes
actually,
of it.
But
wait, before we get to the Browns, can I, since there are 4 men sitting at the table
Yeah.
and 2 of them are married. Mike, are you married?
No, I'm not.
You are?
But
Oh,
he's in
okay.
a serious
All right, so 2 are
relationship.
married.
The mics are single.
The
The
but Mike
bookends are
Lucas
married.
is in a Mike Lucas.
He's not single.
Mike Polk is in a
No.
serious
She
relationship.
asked if I was married.
He's not married.
No.
He's not married, but he's in a serious
All right,
relationship.
let's okay,
Yeah.
but
Do
this
you like
is,
that
this
we're
is
just
still-
establishing this now? We're real close. All of us are.
I knew that. What
I
do
know.
you
No,
mean?
no. Go ahead, Aditi. What's
Oh
your
my God, are
question?
you ruining the surprise bullet? I mean, maybe he's proposing on Christmas
I don't know. I
Eve.
didn't say that.
Let's put
If
that
he is,
out
I don't
there.
We
know
do like
about it.
Stephanie. We would approve.
Aditi,
Am I
what is your
causing
question?
trouble?
Yeah, what's
No,
the-
no.
All right,
no.
okay, so here's the question. So our house has been in a state of disarray for 2021, 22, for almost 4 years now, for
Wow.
a good 3.5 years, because we started a home renovation project, which went off the rails for multiple reasons that I'm legally prevented from saying. But in any case, I am, and this will be a shocker to you, about as orderly, neat, clean, OCD of a person there can be.
Yeah.
I married the biggest slob on the planet. And this is why long distance relationships are always dangerous, because you only visit on weekends when the slob cleans up, and then you actually move to town and you realize
He Trojan horsed you.
In any case. So my husband, the aforementioned slob, keeps asking me what I want for Christmas. I don't want any more stuff.
You want your
I
house
don't
back.
want anything else in my house. All I want is my house to be finished. All I want is for my house to be clean. So I've been staring at exposed drywall in my master bedroom for 3 years now.
Oh my
I said I would like
goodness.
my bedroom done.
That's
And this created a huge fight in the Werginnis household, because apparently saying that I want my backyard cleaned up, that I want the cracked drywall patched up and a bedroom painted is not a gift. But if that's what I want, can it count?
It counts as a gift, yes. It
I
does.
think you're 100% in the right, and your husband's got to get with the program already.
Awesome. All right, so Bull, you'll call Matt later, right?
If you want me
Because
to.
I don't want crap. I don't want stuff. There's no room in this house for more stuff. I just want a clean house.
I can appreciate that, Aditi, because I'm a very neat person as well, neurotically neat at my house.
I am too. Yeah.
And so I don't like disarray. It makes it. If I was dealing with what you're dealing with for 3 years plus, I would have probably been in a loony bin by now.
I need a little more.
This is why my jeans don't fit. Poor bad that G's not here, because I am wearing jeans, G. This is why they're tight on me, because literally, this is what's so crazy about this. Like, when you think better in an orderly space, why is that so hard for other people to fathom? Why do I need to change that?
It's
That's
important
just
to your
how I
mental
operate.
well-being.
Couple things though. Aditi, first of all, I got a couple of fair questions here, I think. Why is it taking 3 years? Is he doing this work himself, or is it contract work that's gone awry?
It's actually multiple contractors. Part of it was COVID. Part of it was, I believe, the first contractor. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. I don't want it to be slanderous, but I'm not saying names. The first contractor was so far behind schedule, and we had no idea what sort of other issue was going on in his life, because it felt like he was constantly asking for draws and the work wasn't done.
Okay.
I still believe that that's why I went into premature labor. That was the first contractor.
Wow, that's impressive.
The second contractor I'm not going to talk about, but basically there's a lot of factual information we'll talk about when we're not on the air sometime.
So is it, but is it how is it your husband's fault? Is he not acting as swiftly? Should he be finding new contractors? Should he be learning to do this through Sears books himself?
We found an amazing contractor finally to fix everything.
Okay.
But he decided to send this contractor off to Virginia Beach to gut and renovate a house that he inherited from
now we
his
found
uncle.
it. All right. I agree.
That's where you have real beef.
And that contractor promised he would be here 3 times. Didn't, kind of was like, oh, you can't make it? Okay. Oh, you can't make it? Okay. Well, meanwhile, your wife is losing her mind.
Yeah.
So you promised to be here. Show up and be here.
So Aditi, let's let the young, broke, single person solve this issue for you, because I have the exact answer. You have to have Matt challenge the contractor to a duel. Your Christmas present is Matt has to fight
That's
the
romantic.
contractor.
That's really romantic.
Matt is the president who will deliver.
Not guns, not pistols, fencing.
No. Fencing and fisticuffs. Just like
fencing and
old
fisticuffs.
Pittsburgh, handle it like
Mike, you're not wired that way. Unfortunately, no. I thought your solution was that you were going to drive to Pittsburgh and paint my darn bedroom.
Maybe Jay should do it. Jay's good at fixing things.
Jay does do a DIY segment.
Hey, I
can do it.
I got Jay. No, I got Jay booked on a drywall gig this weekend.
I've got drywall skills.
Oh, man,
I've got an awesome set of tools.
Sorry, dibs. I
can have this thing fixed by Christmas Eve.
Yeah, he could. But
See, here's what you do. I don't know if you do. See, if somebody screws something up in my house, I just make the point that, hey, I got 52,000 people that listen to what I have to say on Twitter.
Wow, you swing it around like that?
Wow.
You're just swinging it around?
If you screw up.
Okay, that's how you
Well, you know what? That's so funny. So
The
we
bully
had.
pulpit?
That never ends well.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You
I
have
had
the fight in us here.
I
on the
had
show.
somebody.
The Browns need more of that.
I had somebody that was doing waterproofing on my basement. They screwed it up initially. Okay, I went bananas, and I got 50% off. They fixed the job, and I got 50% off.
Because you said, "Do you know who I am?" on Twitter.
I paid $6,000. It's not the "Do you know who I am?"
Okay.
It's I would never just say that like, Oh, do you know what?
Right.
It's like, I don't even say that.
You'll say.
It's like, you effed up. I'm going to share that you effed up.
I will expose who you are.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I don't just say that like randomly. Hey, give me this for free, or you know.
Right. I understand.
It's like you screwed up something, and I will try to handle it.
You
nicely.
want them to take accountability.
Take accountability.
Aditi
I don't
would
get to
never
that
do
point.
that.
I don't get to that point unless I'm really angry.
Right.
Like I've been pushed.
Yeah.
I got about $8,000 off the job,
Not
and
bad.
it was done perfectly.
Yeah. Aditi, do you agree with those practices?
So let's go, Aditi.
You know,
got more Twitter
unfortunately,
followers than I
my
have.
husband does not allow me to proceed the way I would like. In fact, we dealt with one fraudulent contractor that
No.
KDKA,
Wait a
CBS, the
second.
local CBS
Time
affiliate
out.
wanted to do a story.
Time out.
Yes.
Okay, I take issue with the first thing you said.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bull.
My husband, you are a strong, professional, independent woman.
Yes.
Your husband, you don't need his permission for anything.
You have agency.
He doesn't allow you. You are the boss of you.
Yes.
Don't put up with that crap.
I agree with Bull.
When did
Preach
this
it,
turn into
sister.
a therapy session? I thought we were going to talk about Kevin
Are we getting you in
Stefanski
trouble
and
now?
Joe
Is this going to be a
Woods.
problem?
Yeah,
okay.
that's where Aditi wants to pivot to football, and we shall. We
Okay.
shall. Aditi, so we were having the conversation with Mary Kay a little bit ago because Jim Donovan brought this point up yesterday. He was pretty emphatic about it. He just said, you know, it perhaps is time that the Browns pivot and start drafting smarter players. What's your take on that?
I find it difficult to believe that that doesn't go into their evaluation. I hate to call it a dumb team because I've been around dumb teams. I don't think that that's really their fatal flaw here. But I mean, there's something to be said, you know, it sort of speaks to when a coach comes in and wants to remake a team, and more we're hearing about guys who really want, coaches who really want certain characteristics. Right. Be it how hard-nosed they are, be it what their effort is, be it how heady they are, be it how much they love football. You know, Robert Saleh said he needs a team of guys where every single one loves football. My colleague, AJ Ross, told a great story on the sideline of this past weekend's Bengals-Browns game about Zach Taylor creating a clip reel where literally every single player that played for the Bengals against Kansas City had at least one hustle play. And so he put together this reel of every guy making an extraordinary effort. And I think there's a major statement in that. If you, I don't know how many guys ultimately got snaps in that game, but let's say it was 45. If you can find 45 different guys giving major effort in one game, well, that speaks to the type of team he wants, what he wants his team to be.
Sure.
And again, I'm using Robert Saleh because I know that for him, it's really, 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 I need guys that love the game of football, that they're here not for a paycheck. They're here because they just love playing and they love the opportunity that is in front of them. And so, I mean, it's fair to say that Jim Donovan just wants a bunch of guys who are maybe in Andrew Berry's mold, really, really, really smart guys. I just think it's very easy for us to sometimes, when a team is playing bad, to point to a player not being intelligent or a player not being dumb, or sorry, not being dumb, but being not so bright. And that, I don't know that that's the root. When I think of all the things that have gone wrong with the Browns, Jay, is that what you see? Do you look at this team and say this is a dumb team?
Well, I do see the same mistakes happening multiple times deep into the season. And I don't know that it's necessarily a defining characteristic of this team. I just know that I trust Jim and his view of what's happening so much that, and we talk regularly. I'll ask him questions in the newsroom. What do you see here? What do you think here? And I believe Jim Donovan is a football savant. I really do. I think the way he sees the game
if he says that,
incredible.
and he's at practice, yeah. So let's give him his due. He's at practice, right? I'm not at practice every day. I don't know what the coaching is. I don't know what the teaching is.
Sure.
And I'll give you a story. I remember talking earlier in the year with a Steelers lineman about John Mitchell. John Mitchell was the first player to integrate Alabama. He was a long time coach. He's now Mike Tomlin's chief of staff. but he was a defensive line coach in Pittsburgh for a long time. And I remember when something would go wrong, not even when something would go wrong, but just as habit, just as practice, John Mitchell started every single practice. He expected his defensive linemen out earlier before anybody else, and he started every practice with the basic fundamentals. The things that you do in training camp, and then you often forget about because you're so busy implementing a game plan for that week. But John Mitchell never let the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's go. Every single week, he was making sure his guys drilled on the fundamentals. And it doesn't happen right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you can see what the Ravens just did, Ravens, who you were about to see, just did in running all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think sometimes it has to do with the coaching and the development of the players as much as it does with the player themselves. I mean, this is why coaches make money too. The only thing I'd say there is that if Jim Donovan, who is at practice regularly, is saying, no, these guys are indeed being taught, they're indeed being told the same thing, they're being told the same thing in different ways, and none of it is sticking, well, then I surely defer to him. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. And I think that you guys are right in that this year certainly is highlighting certain things that the Browns are missing or needing. And a lot of it doesn't have to do with basic talent, but with something else, with that other piece that you're referencing, that intangible.
Yeah, that's why I think there's validity in what Jim is saying. When we assessed this team in August, we looked at the talent, we looked at the individual pieces and parts, and for some reason, the sum of those parts hasn't added up to what we thought they would.
And again, it may not be that they're necessarily stupid, but maybe they don't have high
no,
football
stupid's
IQ.
A harsh word.
Jimmy
Jimmy never said that. Jimmy didn't even really speak to what was going on with these players. His overall point was, this he said you can draft fast players. You can draft players that can do this and you can do that. But this organization needs to look at drafting smarter players.
Yeah.
And for Jimmy to say that, Jimmy is fairly reserved in his criticism. I think Jimmy is as fair as a play-by-play gets. What I love about Jimmy is that when he sees something that's wrong, he's not going to sugarcoat it because his check is coming from the team. He, more than anyone that I have seen, I think Michael Kay does a really good job of this with the Yankees. He'll be critical of the Yankees if he needs to be. And I think Jimmy is the voice of the fan. When he's in that box, if he sees a pile of crap, he's going to say it.
Yeah.
And so
he's got a little Joe Tate in him. Remember,
he
you
does.
ever listen to Joe Tate?
I love Joe Tate. Joe Tate was my favorite play-by-play guy.
Play-by-play guy.
He did
for
everything
the
in Cleveland at
yes,
one point.
Yes, he did. You're right.
He did Indians, Browns, and Cavs.
But towards the end, he was just doing
the
Cavs, and he had gotten so surly at that point.
He didn't
and
care.
I loved him. He didn't.
He did not care.
Yeah.
He would call it what it was. And Jimmy has that cachet with this organization. Right. Jimmy is, in my view, absolutely untouchable. He has that job for life.
Yeah, he's not going to get fired.
And he can say whatever he wants, and the organization, I hope, would know better than to ever even tell him, Jimmy, tone it down.
Yeah.
Jimmy's tone is perfect.
He's the
and
one
when he
unfireable
says something
person.
like this, to me, it always moves my meter. He convinces me of things all the time. Mm-hmm. And by the way, he has said that, that he's said steadfast all year. Deshaun Watson just throws a different ball. When he's out there throwing the ball, it comes out of his hand differently. It looks different. Everything is different. This guy is the guy. Yep. And so I trust him when he says that. And when he says that the organization may have to pivot and start drafting smarter players,
right,
it tells me that he's either making that assessment through what he's seeing with his eyes or what he's hearing with his ears in and around the facility. And I think that's why I was so curious to get Aditi's take on it and Mary Kay's take on it, because I just think Jimmy is usually, his wind vane is usually pointing in the way that it should.
Aditi, the rest of the season, we are obviously pretty sure that we're just working towards next year, as you know, unless, obviously, like if Jacksonville ties with the Chargers and then if Turkey wins the World Cup, I think then the Browns might be able to keep going. But what I'm saying is it's over. Do you agree that we should be shutting down Myles Garrett for the rest of the year? Why risk injury to him? Why would we be risking anybody right now who we are concerned about having for next year at full capacity?
Well, I don't know that Myles Garrett would agree to that. I don't think that he's willing to throw in the towel until
I'm sure he's not.
No, I know, but
his comments after the game,
Baker
opposite.
But Baker wasn't willing to come out 2 years ago, and last year.
Willing to come out the last game of the year when everybody else played.
Well,
yeah,
what
but
I'm saying is,
I think that again, but I think that that's a completely different comparison. I think that you're setting a tone for the following year too. I think that the way that you end one year absolutely can bleed into how you start the next year. I mean, that story has been told repeatedly by multiple players on multiple teams, that it had to do with what the finish was. It's how you feel about the whole offseason as you go into the offseason. It's about the buy-in as you go into that. And then let's not forget, I mean, you still have people paying for tickets. You know, they want to come and see the team. They want to see your superstar. They want to see the guy that you broke the bank for. And there are a few of those guys that the Browns have broken the bank for. I think until Miles is unable to go, or somebody medically says that Miles is doing more damage to himself by playing than by not playing.
Right.
I mean, the last time I talked to him, Miles didn't even say that surgery was 100% definite. You know, that was sort of a wait and see. And I think that he has too much pride to give up on the season. And especially, I think, because it was an off the field injury, the shoulder, that probably compels him even more to keep pushing through.
Does it change the play calling, though, for Stefanski? Do you not leave him out there for those final plays in the fourth quarter that you might have otherwise?
I mean, maybe. I think that that's valid, but I don't think that they're even engaging in that because they're hoping that they're playing with leads, or they're hoping that they're winning, or they're in a position to secure a win. You know, I wouldn't write everything off. Look, the Browns are at home. This is Deshaun Watson's first game in Cleveland this weekend. And who are the Ravens starting? A guy that was throwing the ball so badly in pregame against the Pittsburgh Steelers that they had the long snapper throwing passes?
Yeah.
I mean, is that who's going to play quarterback? Is it their third string quarterback, or is Tyler Huntley going to be okay? Do we really even know just yet? And then you've got the Saints coming in. It's not like the Saints have been setting anybody on fire. And every time you think, okay, well, that was just a bad week for the Dolphins, they're going to right the ship, then look at what happens to them against the Chargers. I mean, again, Browns, no one is running away with anything right now.
The Browns, we know the Browns are not going to the playoffs, but they're not mathematically eliminated, so you're never going to shut down before you're mathematically eliminated. All their games left are winnable. All their games left are losable. They're all kind of middle-of-the-road teams or worse that they're playing. They could go 4-0. They could go 0-4. Who the hell knows? Last thing, Aditi, before we go, I am finally going to be right. Well, finally, I was wrong last year, but the Steelers are finishing under 500. One more loss. One more loss, and they finish under 500. It is going to happen. Are you excited? Will you celebrate with me? I'm having a party.
I mean, I'm excited to not have to hear about it anymore because, quite frankly, I personally think it's the most meaningless stat ever. I've already said this. You know, there was way too much talent on this team to have 3 playoff wins in 12 years. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like, being relevant at the end of the season, okay, that's nice for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. But when it's been 12 years and you have nothing to show for it, I mean, look, when I first got to this town, Mike Tomlin said that this was a team that was hunting Lombardi trophies, that nothing mattered more than that. That's the lecture that he gave Antonio Brown years ago when Antonio Brown had every single record and looked like he was on pace to have, which he did have, a 6-year run better than any other receiver in the history of the game. Mike Tomlin said to him, none of that matters. Touchdowns, catches, yards. You should be in this game for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to win a Lombardi trophy. Okay, well, the Steelers haven't even sniffed that. So I'm a little bit tired of hearing that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. How many playoff wins has he had? Not many. Like, I think that's the way that you should be looking at it. They
for the past decade, they've been the Andy Dalton Bengals. But because they're the Steelers, nobody will say it. That's what they are.
Well, you know, and it's interesting. I know we need to go before I'll say that a local radio host made that point, that other than Marvin Lewis, who could have a playoff record like Mike Tomlin has had over the last 12 years, and nobody even raises an eyebrow.
Have the Pittsburgh fans turned on Tomlin? Like, is this the vibe, total vibe?
It seems that way.
I mean, that's been a thing for like a decade. There are people that love him and get so angry if you ever question him, and there are people that just want to run him out of town.
That's
and
great.
Look,
I'm glad we're not the only divided fan base.
This is not a black or white. I do believe that Mike Tomlin is a tremendous coach. I also believe that he needs better assistants, that he has some great assistants. Terrell Austin is a great assistant. Brian Flores is a great assistant. Mike Sullivan is a great assistant. But he also, I mean, again, it's insane to me that Mike Tomlin has no coaching tree. That he never gets these young assistants that are these great creative minds that go on to ascend. Do you know that only one coach that has ever worked for Mike Tomlin later went on to become a head coach?
Yeah,
that's the guy he fired, Bruce Arians.
You're exactly right. Literally. That's a huge knock. Especially a guy who comes from Tony Dungy's tree.
There is a middle ground there. I do think that Mike Tomlin is the right man for the job, but I do think that ownership needs to talk to Mike Tomlin about certain things that need to change or get better or be reevaluated.
Don't do it. I don't think they should talk to him at all.
Because
hiring crappy assistants.
I mean, I think it's all part of growth. And anyway, all right, guys.
Aditi, thanks.
Thank you
I
for
hope
putting up with me. Thank you for the Christmas advice. Bull, call Matt later for me.
I will.
Aditi, I hope your house
you
gets in
later.
order soon. I know that's hectic. You're a very patient soul.
Never. Thank you.
My new
Bye,
dream
guys.
scenario is now Week 18, Browns Steelers, with the chance for Tomlin.
The Steelers?
And they're both 8-8.
They're
Who
both
are the Steelers
8-8.
playing the rest of the year?
Well, they play the
Let's see.
Browns in last game of the season.
Yeah, so it's possible that they could both come
yeah.
into the game 8-8.
And that puts Bull in a
So
real
it's the
pickle.
500 bowl.
That puts Bull in a real pickle.
Why a pickle?
It's too
I'm
bad
rooting
we
for the
can't bet on
Browns.
that
Why would
game
I
yet.
be even a pickle?
Because, well, no, if the Browns
I'm rooting for the
win-
Browns to win the rest of their games.
Sure, of course.
Well, yeah, it's true. Actually, that's my pickle. Hey, we actually can bet on that game because it's in January.
Is
And
it
if
in
you want-
January?
If you want
Yes.
to bet on that game,
Well then.
I
You
say
know
we
where
go
to
down
bet.
to the
Case,
Jack.
the
I
time
say
has arrived,
we
Ohio
go to the
sports
Jack
fans.
and place a group bet.
Yeah, we should. Why not?
Sports betting is going live on January 1st. Download the BetJack
Less
app
than a
today.
month.
It is.
So be ready to go. All in on the action. BetJack, Ohio Sportsbook.
So-
Gamble responsibly.
Yeah.
You know how to, you know how betting works. Can I bet on that Pittsburgh and Browns game right now? Like,
elsewhere, yes. Elsewhere, yes.
Not legally. You know.
no, not legally, not in Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
If
but
you went to Vegas, you could.
I could
Yeah,
bet
you
on them,
could.
even
Yeah,
though.
yeah, you can.
Okay, so
I don't think they're taking futures at.
No.
No,
no.
they
But
can't.
what I'm saying is, I could do that in Vegas, and that last game is always such a mystery.
Yeah, because you don't know who's
you
gonna
never know
start.
who's going to start.
Yeah.
Somebody's, so that would always be like a really interesting game to try and bet on.
Yeah, I
Real
would
quick-
tell you avoid games like that.
Of course.
Like
Real
the plague.
quick before we go to Guardians here, this is Steelers' final 4 games. At the Panthers,
Winnable.
who, winnable certainly.
Yep.
By the way, Panthers control their own destiny for the playoffs. Isn't that
Well,
amazing?
everybody in that division does because it's so
I don't think
awful.
I don't think the Saints do.
I think they do.
No.
I read that every team in that
Oh, do
division
they?
is still alive.
Then they
So
hope.
that-
But they're all dead still at the same time, you know?
You're right.
Then they host the Raiders, which are obviously winnable.
Yeah.
But also, the Steelers aren't good enough that they couldn't lose to any team.
No, like you said of the Browns, they're all winnable,
Yeah.
they're all losable.
Yeah.
Then they host. Then they're at the Ravens. You figure Lamar's back by then.
You would think.
Even if not.
And then they host the Browns. So
I mean,
they're not
500
playing
is
any,
in play.
They're not playing any great teams. But
500's in play for us, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers are going to finish 7-10.
But that would give us something to play for if we were both 8-8 going
battle
into that.
for third.
The
Yeah,
battle for
the 500 bowl.
Although
And
you
the
get a
battle to
better
not-
schedule if you finish 4th, in theory.
That's true.
It's true. Yeah.
All right,
Guardians
Guardians talk. Bull, start us off.
Well, obviously today we had some breaking news right before the show that the Guardians have signed Mike Zunino. Listen, the guy is a career 200 hitter. So
Is that his career average?
Yes. So if you look at his batting average, it sucks. He's really not any better than Austin Hedges.
He's a rich man's Austin
when
Hedges.
it comes to batting average. But here's where there's a big difference. He is a significantly better power hitter.
Right.
If you look at their career on base plus slugging, right?
Yeah.
Austin Hedges is like he's like at 500, which is
He's got one of the
insanely
lowest
bad.
I've ever seen.
Last
Historically
year,
low.
his
Historically
OPS was the lowest in like 25 years for a guy that had 300 or more at bats.
Right.
25 years, the lowest. All right. Whereas Zunino's career on OPS is right around 700, which is average, just a little below
You
that.
can work with that.
Yeah. Now, and the reason it's that low is because he just doesn't get on base a lot.
Right.
So he's a guy who, like Hedges, there's going to be a lot of games where he goes 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. However, he has significantly more power. Hedges never hit more than like 17, 18 home runs in a season, whereas Zunino in his last 3 full seasons has hit at least 25 home runs.
So
he's also very good defensively. Now, last year was a disaster. He got off to a bad start, and then he got hurt at the end
Are
of
we
April.
sure that he wasn't even hurt when he was playing?
I don't know. Maybe
in
he was
April?
hurt. I don't remember what his injury
I don't either.
was.
I don't remember
But he
what
missed
it
the
was,
whole
but-
rest of the season.
Because he was awful last year.
But
before he left.
it's a low risk move because it's 1 year, $6 million, and it gives them a chance to see what they got in Bo Naylor.
Yeah.
So
Now again, I wanted Sean Murphy. I would have loved Wilson Contreras, although we knew that wasn't
if
realistic.
if they could have pulled off the Murphy trade,
Yeah.
you could make an argument that the Guardians won the offseason. And I know that they didn't make a big free agent splash.
But Bell and Murphy are two very,
When
very
you look
good
at
moves.
what their needs were,
yeah.
you can already make the argument that just they always get more out of their dollar than every other team. They addressed their biggest need, I think.
Yeah.
And I think now they've addressed their second biggest need, not with the player that we were hoping for.
No.
But here's one thing I wanted to point out to you, and I want your thought on this. This is what scares me about these all-or-nothing guys. And Aaron Judge is an example of that. And I'm not saying Aaron Judge is
Aaron Judge hits for a good average.
No, he does. That's why I'm not saying Aaron Judge is one of those guys.
Year,
But I remember in the summer of the home run when Bonds and Sosa were chasing Maris's record. I think it was
Sosa McGuire.
Sosa McGuire.
Yeah.
When they were chasing Maris.
Yeah.
And then later when Bonds was too.
Right.
I had a baseball scout tell me that the problem with these guys is they're all feasting on bad pitching. And he showed me the list of the guys that McGuire and Sosa had homered off of. Mm-hmm. And the vast majority of them were guys that are fourth or fifth in the rotation.
Well, those three were also feasting on testosterone.
They were. And they were hitting everything. But, and even with Judge, Aaron Judge, for the most part, last year, if you look at all the pitchers and you list all 62, he had some home runs, he had multiple home runs against certain pitchers. A lot of these pitchers are bottom feeders in their rotations, or relief pitchers. Now, let me finish.
Go ahead.
What the fear in doing that and building a team on a big number of power hitters is that in the playoffs, what we've learned time and time again in the playoffs, pitching always wins, always. Mm-hmm. Teams aren't blowing teams out in the playoffs. Playoff games typically are 4-3, 3-2, 2-1, 1-0. Look at the extra inning games this year that we had in playoff games where guys couldn't push a run across.
I think it's about bullpens.
It is about bullpens and more specialization, but the point that this scout was making to me was the trouble in investing in guys like that are just accumulating numbers in the regular season. They never see that kind of pitching in the postseason. And when you look at Aaron Judge in the postseason, where he's facing 1 and 2s, almost exclusively, sometimes you can mix in a 3, he's awful in the postseason.
It's not, if you take out the Guardians, his numbers aren't bad in the postseason.
They are bad. No, they are.
Not if you take out the Guardians.
As a body of work in the postseason, it doesn't match up to what he's done in the regular season.
Some
guys exceed what they do.
First of all, he's still got a lot of years left, so that could change.
He does.
I mean, who was it that was so bad in the playoffs? A-Rod was bad in the playoffs forever.
Bonds was bad.
And then A-Rod had that 1 year where he just carried. And that happens,
Sure, it does.
You know as well as anybody. It's a small sample size.
I'm just bringing up,
Judge has had some good series.
The reason I bring all that up is here'd be my fear on Zunino.
Yeah.
He's hitting a lot of home runs, and I'm sure he's hitting them off bad pitching.
He probably
Particularly because the guy that strikes out a ton scares me to death. Because he's going up there, he's feast or famine.
Right.
He's either going to hit the ball out of the park or he's going to take a seat. A guy like Zunino scares me because he can be productive in the regular season, but when he's seeing 1s and 2s in the playoffs, he's going to go 0 for 9 with 8 strikeouts.
Maybe so, but I don't think the Guardians are relying on Mike Zunino to carry them in the postseason.
Listen.
I mean, you paid him 1 year, $6 million.
Exactly. But we saw what Hedges did. We saw what Naylor did against lefties in the postseason.
Right.
Give me a guy that puts the ball in play. I
hear you, but they have a lineup of guys who put the ball in play.
That brings me to my question with Zunino.
Yeah.
Boy, you look at the guys they have now, adding him, where in the lineup do you think he fits best?
Near the bottom.
Bottom.
But here's the thing, Jay, too, is that the Guardians have a bunch of guys that put the ball in play, yet they didn't hit it all in the playoffs.
Listen, historically, batting averages go down dramatically in the playoffs. They just do. And even the Guardians who, all season long, we kept saying, well, what they do translates to the playoffs. But we didn't see it. We talked about how they go from first to third. We talked about how they run.
Right.
I don't know that we stole a base in the playoffs.
Well, because they didn't get enough guys on base. I mean, think about it. A lot of the Guardians' success is getting guys on base, walks, singles.
Right.
Well, those are also harder to get against top
harder
pitchers.
to get, yeah.
So
you got to get to what you can do before you can do it.
Sure.
Where if you're building your team on power, the chance is always there.
And the Guardians haven't done that.
No, they have not. And they cannot.
I don't think anybody's excited about Mike Zunino.
Right.
That's not he's better than Austin Hedges, but not Sean Murphy is miles ahead of.
Yeah. That would have been a major upgrade.
That's a major upgrade because, I mean, the only things, Zunino, plays the field as well as Murphy does and has even more power than Murphy. But Murphy's an all-around hitter. He's and he's young and improving. He's on the upswing.
What's the next move that you want to see them make?
I mean, I think, to me, it's still got to be another bet. I think there's 2 moves. I think they need a guy who can mash lefties as a first baseman DH type of player.
Right.
Hopefully can be a good fielder because
Do you have anybody in mind there?
You
have to start looking.
I should. I haven't really looked at that.
Look at
What
the
else do they
splits.
need?
The other thing I want them to do
Need a pitcher.
is get a veteran starting pitcher for the middle of the rotation.
Here's who we got. We got Justin Verlander. Here's who's
signed.
available.
He signed.
Okay, Clayton Kershaw.
He signed.
Chris Bassett. This might be
He
from
signed.
1998.
Yeah, none of these
signed.
guys at the top are going to be
Okay, so
available.
who's still available?
So
you want?
Carlos Carrasco's available via trade from the Mets. Corey Kluber's a free
You'd have to
agent
trade
right
for him
now.
because didn't they pick up his option?
You would, but it wouldn't cost you that much at this point. It wouldn't,
You like Kluber still?
I mean, Kluber had a decent year for Tampa Bay. He knows it here. I wouldn't mind bringing Kluber back on a one-year
my
contract.
lasting image of Kluber was giving up that home run.
I know,
know.
Jay, but
I know.
They asked too much of
He's
him.
an innings eater.
Yes.
He's still effective.
Without Kluber, the Guardians don't get out of the Indians don't get out of the first round.
He would
of the
scare me in the
2016
playoffs, though.
How about him
But
in the
he
middle?
pitched great until that appearance.
How about him in the middle?
know it.
Yeah, it's so everybody says that.
I know, but that's the
But if
knock
you
on
look,
him.
But look at what he did that whole postseason until that game. He was magnificent.
and he's probably fine. He walked off emotionlessly,
Yeah,
just like he does after he kills
I
himself.
will tell you this.
Perfectly
He was known as
straight
Klubot.
pop.
I
when he
will
was
tell you
here.
this. I was at Game 1 and Game 4 of the World Series in which Kluber pitched before pitching in Game 7.
I was as well.
And as a Cubs fan, personally, sitting there
scared.
watching it,
You
I
were
was
scared.
like, oh my God, we got to
Yeah.
face Kluber. We're never going to score against him.
Yeah.
And Game 7, he was out of gas. I can't blame him for that. He had thrown
No.
an absurd amount of innings.
Gave up the leadoff home run and really.
The Fowler, he never had it.
felt
But
like it
Miller was out of gas then. A lot of guys were out of gas. Both of those managers overused guys. I think Frank Cohen and Joe Madden are two of the best managers I've ever seen.
They
and
both
I
made
thought
the
they
same
both
mistake.
made terrible mistakes
both
in that
made the
series.
same mistake.
He overused Miller and Kluber, and Madden way overused Chapman in that
But you
series.
can understand the
But I
temptation to
understand
do
why.
it, Bull. Yeah.
Yes,
Like-
I know why they did it.
Yeah.
So who's your dream signing, Jay? And who do you think the
It was
Guardians?
Sean Murphy.
Well, how about now with what's
I don't-
left?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I don't know. Like
I need to
Bull,
look more
I
at the
need to go
corner.
look at.
Yeah.
I need to see who, from a split standpoint, is hitting 350 against lefties. That's
Yeah.
what we need. We need a guy who you can platoon at first base and DH.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope here is, I know that the Guardians are loaded in their system. I'm encouraged that the Guardians think that Bo Naylor must be ready. Because if they didn't, I think they would have gone out and given up the package to get Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they kept Naylor tells me that they must think that there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't see him long enough last year. I thought he was a little impatient at the plate. I thought there were times he made good contact, but it wasn't a large enough sample size. My hope is he develops a little bit more as a catcher, and they already have that piece on the roster.
And at this point, we kind of have to give the Guardians and their scouting the benefit of the doubt.
I trust everything they do.
With everyone they've brought up
McNuggets.
who's turned out to be so good. We don't know if Naylor's gonna be good. I just combined Bo and Naylor.
Yeah,
into
Baylor.
But,
Yeah.
but
I'm with you.
they have so many young guys. If they thought that they have their guy in Naylor,
I trust
would have
him.
rather traded for Murphy. But
I
who
trust
am I to
him.
tell them?
Yeah.
You don't know how to evaluate. They obviously do.
Bo Naylor hit 263 last year in the minors with 21
Good
home
power.
runs. With
Yeah,
21
good
home
power.
runs,
Yeah.
68 RBIs.
And I think they believe that he can be that same guy at the big league level at some point. I don't think he's
And that
ready
may
now.
be why they didn't want to pay what they had to pay for Murphy.
And you know what?
Because they think he's going to be great.
And to McNugget's point, they know him more. They I don't see him nearly as enough. I read about him. I saw him in a limited role last year. But
Right.
the fact that the Guardians didn't pull the trigger on Murphy tells me that they think they've got their guy in Bo Naylor. They've been very high on him. They called him up last year. Hell, he was on the playoff roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that in the Guardians, I trust. If this were the Browns making this move, I'd be like, uh-oh, I'm nervous about this.
Something's
But
wrong, yeah.
their track record is so good that I just have to sit back and say, I bet you Naylor really develops next year. Now, remember, we had 5 or 6 guys that they called up from the minor leagues that were not expected to contribute to this ball club at all.
And did.
That ended up winning Gold Gloves, ended up hitting massive home runs in playoff games, ended up being pivotal chips in the Guardians' run last year. So are they going to do that again this year? Unlikely that there'll be that many. But I think they're going to bring some guys up that contribute once again.
Yes.
And I'm also expecting a little bit of a pullback. I don't think Gonzalez is going to
That's
be.
what I was
Yeah,
going
some
to
of
ask.
these guys
Are you
are
scared of
I'll
this?
tell you what.
There
too,
will be a step back for some.
One other pitcher I thought about who has struggled with injuries, but on a short-term deal has number one starter upside that is still available?
Syndergaard?
Noah Syndergaard.
That's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez.
I've heard no buzz for him on the free agent market.
What was his injury? Was it Tommy John?
He's had
everything, hasn't he?
He's had a
Rotator?
number of injuries.
He had a couple in New York. Then he went to L.A. this past year.
Yeah, he didn't have a
and
great
did-
year
did
there
nothing.
either.
No.
But,
Yeah.
like, the guy's still only 30. On a short-term deal, that guy could
Yeah.
be. But Kluber pitched really well. I'd be happy with Kluber. One other thing I wonder if the Guardians are exploring. I know we think their outfield is set, but Bryan Reynolds of the Pirates, who is a tremendous player, wants out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that would. I just.
Who
don't-
could blame him?
I don't. I think that the package they'd have to give up to get him.
Yeah, but he's
in
worth
an area where they're not weak. You know, like you want to strengthen every position if you
We
can.
don't think they're weak though.
But,
Yeah, but you
they're
know
not.
what?
I mean,
But
look
if
at,
you
got a Gold Glove center fielder, you got a Gold Glove left fielder, you got this up and coming Rookie of the Year caliber right fielder.
Right, but
I think they're set.
I would be willing to trade Gonzalez in a deal. As much as I like him, I'd be willing to trade him in a deal.
I wouldn't move him for anything.
I think Bryan Reynolds is a special player, and if you had an outfield of Quan, or you trade other guys and you make Miles Straw your fourth outfielder and put Bryan Reynolds in
Mike,
center field.
Can't somebody play? Go
what
ahead.
would the average fan think if we traded Gonzalez at this point?
I mean, they probably snap, but it also.
Bryan
could-
Reynolds is an all-star.
I know.
I
Trading
know
for an
he is,
all-star.
but we have heartstrings with this guy.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Right.
he
I don't
hit
think they would trade him. I'm
massive
just saying
home
I
runs.
would. I don't think they would
Sure.
trade him, but if I had to, I would. But I think the better plan is to trade guys who are not in the big leagues yet and make Miles Straw a fourth outfielder. I know you're paying him a little more, but who cares?
Just to
Gold
put a bow
Glover.
in this Guardians talk, I think I'll ask what everybody's probably thinking. Who would win in a 2-on-2 Top Gun style brother-on-brother beach volleyball game between Josh and Bo Naylor and Isaiah and Evan Mobley?
Oh, you
So
got
the Mobleys,
They got the
Mobleys, yeah,
height.
they have the height.
definitely the
in a
Mobleys.
volleyball game?
They're just going to stand at the
What
net
if the
with their arms
Nailers
up.
want it more though? The Nailers have heart,
Yeah, the
man.
Nailers will be diving everywhere.
They want it more. And I'll bet you
I thought you were going to throw the Lopez's in.
the
that.
Mobleys,
I thought it was too.
I'm only doing Cleveland brothers.
yes.
Cleveland
Only
brothers.
Cleveland
Yeah.
brothers.
By the way, did anybody, speaking of volleyball real quick, did anybody see that video?
Yes.
That women's
Yes.
volleyball when she dove?
Dove
Yeah,
into the
that was
stands and
awesome.
came back and won the point.
That was the most
awesome.
amazing thing I've seen.
crazy.
No, I didn't see it.
It was crazy. It
What's
was,
up, Anthony?
ESPN
Yeah,
sent
so
it out on their Instagram.
Earl here went out into the YouTube chat, and whenever we ask the YouTube chat some questions, it comes to you by our friends at PCC Airfoils.
I heard of them.
Looking for a
They're
job
number
with
one in
career
They're the best
advancement and great
airfoils.
benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio, and all locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 an hour and up. Plus, get a full benefit package, paid time off, and signing bonuses. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So our friend Tequila Mockingbird, we went out
I
and
get
we were
it.
like, hey, what do you guys want the Guardians to do?
Yeah.
YouTube chat, the legendaries. And we're like, hey, so Tequila Mockingbird, they haven't secured a catcher yet. They only secured a backup catcher, and they still think they need a starting number 3
They're
pitcher.
not getting another
Throw
catcher.
in
can't
shade.
I think they think they're set at catcher.
Yeah.
Between
All right.
Naylor and Zanino, I think,
Yeah, go ahead.
think they're
I
confident.
also
It's
agree
okay.
with that. And then
Tequila
Tony
Mockingbird's
M.
entitled to his or her opinion.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
Yeah, they're allowed to have their bad takes.
Well, wait, Anthony, what
Tequila-
was the second part of that question? Wasn't it 2 parts?
They still need a number 3 starting pitcher.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about with Carrasco or Kluber,
Yeah, we'll
Syndergaard.
take care of it.
Yeah, I don't think they need a number 3. I think they need a number 4.
Quantrill's are 3.
Yeah.
Well, those guys are all better than Quantrill.
You
Or,
think-
I mean, they're all, well,
I mean, I guess
but
could
Kluber
be.
and Carrasco are definitely better than Quantrill, I think.
I don't know.
I'm not sure
I don't know
about
about that.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Quantrill was very good last year.
Yeah, but
Very good.
I know, but
And he's young.
He
And
doesn't have great stuff. I don't love his stuff.
I don't hate his stuff.
I don't think he's gonna.
I'll defend Cal to the death. I got a personal
I know you
connection,
will.
Yeah.
I don't like. I
No
get
Cal
nervous
Quantrill
about
on this
pitchers
set
that don't
right
Why do you
strike
have a
out
personal
guys.
thing with him?
I went to college with his wife.
Oh,
Friends with
I
his wife.
see.
He's fine.
All right.
In the
Good
end,
guy.
does
I
it
like
matter who's the third or the fourth?
You're a
I don't
Quantrill
think it
fan?
matters.
No, you're splitting
They
hairs
didn't really
at that
have a
point.
fourth starter to
They
use in
need
the
a
playoffs.
middle of the rotation
They need
starter.
another guy they could
They
start
need another
in a playoff
pitcher.
game.
We could agree
Yes.
on that. Just,
And they could start Carrasco or Syndergaard or Kluber in a playoff game.
Hey,
Unlike Aaron Savali or Zach Plesac.
yes.
Cal Quantrill's
Those
wife.
guys should be
Nice.
gone.
Very good basketball player.
Very nice.
Nice.
Very nice
No,
woman.
but like nice. You guys
Nice.
know what I mean. Nice.
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 Great story of how they
Yeah.
met.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Cal's dad and her dad played for the Dodgers at the
Dodgers
same
together.
time.
Oh.
So they met in the Dodgers,
Like
kids'
kids' house.
family clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
When they were young, and then years later reconnected through social
who's
media.
her dad?
And now they're married.
Andy Ashby.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
We'll get on the show one day.
And her-
It's a great story.
And his dad
What
was
an entitled
supposed to, like,
romance.
millions.
Paul Quantrill.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get him on the show. Easton, what's up? How you doing? What up, Cal?
Oh, good.
Okay, we got another one.
Next question.
Anthony, was that it for the question?
That was actually it for that, but we have to remind people that we are actually not doing overtime today like we normally do.
Right.
Good point. We have a big meeting we have to attend to right after the show, so we apologize.
Yes.
There is no overtime. We'll be back to your regularly scheduled
What could
overtime.
possibly be so
tomorrow.
important? I'm just curious. Is there something? Is
you're
there
in
a
it.
fire drill? I am.
You're there.
Oh,
You're
great.
thanks for checking
We're
your
having
email.
a Zoom meeting with somebody that we need
Okay.
to
It is a very important meeting that we can't skip, so we can't be late with that, so we're going to skip overtime today. But we do want to remind you guys that at any point we do overtime. 99.9% of the time.
Yes.
Extra
Unless
content.
apparently the governor's here or something.
We
got to
have two
talk to him.
tiers. $1.99 gets you the emojis. $4.99 gets you that overtime content. We love all
If
our
you want
members.
the overtime content, you got to be in on the coaches tier. Let's get it going.
There will be-
$4.99 a month. So under $60 a year, you get all
That's
the
right.
extra, all the extra takes, all the hot stuff.
It's
And
24 hours, by the way, which is 12 extra shows. When you add it all together, you get 12 extra shows for less than $60.
That's a bargain. That's worth it. Are we going to do the top 5, or are we going to blow through that?
No, I think we're going to do final takes because I know Mike has a good final take today.
All right.
All right, I'll start us off real quick. I was trying to mention this before, but I'll get to it now. So I've started watching this show. It's called Welcome to Chippendales. For those who don't know, Chippendales was the first ever male strip club. And you know, I'm thinking, well, why? I'm so uptight in my sexuality. I can't admit that I can't watch a show called Chippendales. I don't want to see male stripping. Well, okay, if you want to be uptight in your sexuality and miss a good show, then that's okay. The show is really about how it started. The guy who started the business and the people he dealt with there in terms of the choreographer and just different people, and there's murder involved, and I don't know how, if every detail of the show is true. I don't want to read about it until I finish watching the show, but it is excellent. I can't remember the name of the actor who's playing the lead role. Do you know his name?
Kumail. Yeah. Kumail.
He was in the superhero movie.
He's great.
Really good. Yeah, great
He's
actor.
been in a
Great
million
comedian.
different things.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He was in The Big Sick, he and his real-life wife. Anyway, the show is really well done, outstanding. So check it out, and don't be uptight.
All right,
There you go.
Mike.
Perfect. Real quick, guys. I'm going to be honest. I'm starting to get worried about deepfake technology.
Uh-oh.
It's the very lifelike realizations,
Like
graphic
Steph Curry
realizations,
three-point,
yes, that make it look like real people. I think we always knew we were going to get here. It's been interesting to watch the progression. I remember watching on Atari the basketball players at one point just being like two little bricks, and they would just run down and throw a little brick at another brick and stuff. And that was the beginning of our like graphic technology representing people. And then I watched it get better, double dribble, obviously, and then NBA jams. And then if you look at one of these video games, like I'll be sometimes at a bar and somebody might be playing a video game at a bar on the TV, and I think I'm watching like a basketball game, and I'm just like, are the Knicks gonna pull this out? And it's just two dudes just playing a PlayStation. In fairness, I probably had a couple at that point, but still, what I'm saying is there's been great improvement, and it's getting scarier and scarier. And we all knew we'd get here. My only hope was that it would not happen before the boomer generation had blessedly passed, because they are not going to be able to handle this very well. This is the generation that fell for chain letters when somebody would send something in the mail and say, "You'll be cursed if you don't send $1 to me." And then my mom is like, "Oh no, a witch," and she'd put $1 in the mail and send it away. They will click on any piece of spam. The boomers will, my mom will, anything that enters her box that says like, "You won something." I've had to take so many viruses off of that poor dear woman's computer. I can only imagine her being that easily tricked just by those very simple things. I can only imagine if a real deep fake, a good-looking deep fake of like Robert Redford shows up on her computer and calls her by name and asks her for her social security number because he wants to take her on a date or something like that, she's going to give it to him. If a CGI graphic, very realistic looking version of Ronald Reagan appears before my father and says that he wants to come back and fix everything that's gone wrong ever since he left, my dad is going to give him his mother's maiden name and the street that he grew up on, and that guy will have my dad's bank account emptied within like 10 minutes. if you are using if you're one of these sickies who's using this deepfake technology, please show a little bit of mercy. We know you can trick our parents. It's not hard. Just show a little bit of mercy and just hold off just like 10 years or so and get them out of we'll get rid of this generation, and then you can abuse us and the game is afoot. But just show some kindness in your heart, dark web, and help us out. Thank you.
Jay, do you want to go? Because once I do mine,
well done.
It's going to get off.
Yeah.
We're not going to get back.
Were you guys going to do the same thing?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe we are.
Are you rip and skip?
No, I want to talk about Mike Leach. So.
That would take more than final take. I just want to recognize that today the college football world
That's where I was going.
lost. You hear this term all the time, one of a kind. Well, today the college football world and the sports world really did lose one of a kind. Mike Leach died at 61 years old. He had a heart attack and passed away today. Fairly unexpected. He had contracted pneumonia, I believe, or an upper respiratory late in the regular season while coaching at Mississippi State. And he had a heart attack and did not survive it, died in the hospital this morning. And Mike has been controversial for a number of reasons. He first burst onto the scene at Texas Tech. He goes way back. I'm pretty sure he coached Tim Couch.
He did.
Okay, he was an assistant under Hal Mumme at Kentucky, and he was just an offensive genius. And if you liked his tactics or you didn't, if you talk to anybody that studies offense and the offensive machine in football, they will tell you that Mike Leach is probably the most innovative offensive mind of this generation. A lot of his concepts are used regularly today, not just in college football, but also in the NFL. He resurrected Texas Tech's program and turned them into a winner. He went to Washington State and turned them into a winner. His last game, sadly, was his biggest upset during his time at Mississippi State. He beat his rival Ole Miss and finished his regular season at 8-4, which is an improvement from the year before. He was on path to have Mississippi State as a true contender in the SEC. Not saying they would have beaten Alabama or Georgia, but his teams would have been in the mix for the years to come because the trajectory was that way. Odd guy, weird guy. His news conferences were by far the most entertaining news conferences in the history of sports. If you don't believe me, YouTube them. He was known for, in player meetings, when talking about quarterbacks, he would go on 2-hour diatribes about anything. He was wildly intelligent. He did not play college football. He was a lawyer. He was one of a kind, and the sports world and the college football world is going to miss him.
That's exactly where I was going to go, too. So I'm glad you went there, and you hit on a lot of stuff. So I just want to tell y'all two personal stories with Coach Leach that I got to share.
You worked around him.
Around him enough, yeah. And at SEC Media Days, he was the one coach that everyone looked forward to speaking with because you could ask him literally anything. We asked him one time to rank zombie movies, and he went on a 5-minute answer about. He was awesome. But two stories.
He's the anti-Belichick.
Was that you that asked the question? Because that answer went viral.
I didn't ask. I asked the A&M related question about where Kyle Field. He hated Kyle Field, and he made fun of the core cadets.
Who would win the mascot fight?
That's a great
this morning.
That was out when he was at Washington. But two stories real quick. Mike Leach has no ties to A&M or College Station at all. He coached at Texas Tech, which is in Lubbock, which is 6 to 7 hours away from A&M. I don't know how he got the number, or how, I'm not going to say his name. He was the worst radio host in College Station. Show no one watched. Got his number, and every 3 weeks would have Mike Leach on for 20 minutes, and they would talk about nothing. Not football, just books, fishing, cooking. Just have him on as a guest. I don't know how they came in touch. He would come on. I got to fill in as a co-host on that show one day, the day Mike Leach was supposed to call in. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to talk A&M football. He doesn't know who me and the guy I was hosting with. We're like, he's not going to call in. We'll fill. Phone rings. It's Coach Leach. You ready? We're like, holy crap. Yeah. Talked to Coach Leach for 30 minutes. He went over the time.
Yeah.
Complete BS. Not a single football question.
Topic examples.
What to do in a bear attack.
Okay.
He answered that question. He talked about why he hates the core cadets at A&M and how he thinks that he should open his own pirate school. If A&M could have a fake Army school, it's not fake, but in his mind it's fake. He wants to open the Mike Leach School of Pirates, and everyone wear an eye patch and have a sword and a parrot on their shoulder.
That's not the best take by him.
No, I'm just saying like random stuff like that.
Yeah.
Secondary.
He didn't really care about political correctness.
No,
either.
he would just.
Well, I don't know about that's politics, but
No, I know, but it's
yeah,
you know,
I get what you're saying.
It's anti-pirate.
So he just talked for us. Did not have to whatsoever. He called in on his own time.
Yeah.
To this random radio, and this is when he's in Washington State.
Yeah.
He's on West Coast time for whatever reason called in. He came to A&M. A&M beat them pretty good. Afterwards, when you talk to the coaches, Jay, you know, Bull, they don't want to talk to you guys. Like they want to get in out, especially on a road game. The bus is leaving. We're on deadline, and he just starts talking. And he starts 45 minutes later. Every writer in there can't leave their seats because it's the most entertaining press conference I've ever been a part of.
It's true.
Nothing about football once again. They lost 35-14. It wasn't even close. And he's talking about the ambiance of college football, everything that's amazing with college football. And you said one of one. The dude was different. And there's so many cookie-cutter guys. Everyone wants to be the next Saban. Everyone wants to be the next Pete Carroll when he was at USC. Mike Leach went his own path. And we just need more individuality in sports in general. And for him to be able to
couldn't agree
succeed
more.
he did, it's just a testament to how good, kooky, and everything he was.
He
and
said stuff.
He'll be.
He said stuff.
Mike Leach, man, rest in peace. I can't
believe
tell
it
your
either.
family you love. It happened over literally in 3 days. So tell your family, your friends, you love them, and the college football will not be the same.
Went to
without
a party Saturday night, and people knew he was sick. They were surprised that he showed up. Had the heart attack Sunday, and now he's gone.
See you tomorrow.
All right, we're done. Enjoy your the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday.
I'm giving this away on Twitter today.
Yep. Look for Bull's Twitter account.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
There you go.
his Twitter handle is Petty
Still
the
got
Bull.
the tag.
It's so rare.
And you could win that jersey.
Collector's
What
item.
happened to the tag? Oh, there it is.
See you tomorrow, everybody.
No
Bye,
overtime.
everybody.
See you tomorrow.
Enjoy.
Okay,
Nice.
one.